All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We had another meeting workshop that backed right up to this. We needed a little bio break. The irony was we were actually talking about outdoor bathroom systems. So I'm going to call to order the Monday, April 28th Royal Oak City Commission meeting to order. We're going to begin with an invocation given by Commissioner Macy, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I ask that you stand if you can, please.
I've been thinking a great deal about making tough decisions recently, especially as I have a front row seat this year to my daughter and her classmates, including the mayor's oldest daughter and at least one member of our audience today, as they make tough decisions, choosing whether they will continue their journeys after graduation. It's a moment in their lives full of hope, excitement, and no small amount of difficulty, as they weigh competing priorities, listen to advice, and ultimately make choices that will shape their futures. I've been watching them with admiration as decisions roll out about college, about trade school, about gap years, about work opportunities, about volunteer opportunities. And I've been reflecting on how their tough choices mirror the work before us at these meetings. We too are called to make decisions that are not always easy. Decisions that ask us to weigh different perspectives, to listen carefully, and to look ahead towards an uncertain future. But we have the additional burden of looking beyond a single individual's future to the future of the community as a whole. We must consider what's best in that light, not what's best for ourselves as individuals, not for one person or group, not for a single moment in time, but for the future of our community and the betterment of the collective. Sometimes these decisions may seem trivial to outsiders about bathroom facilities or playground swings or holiday decorations, but they matter to us very much here in the Royal Oak community, and we do take them seriously. So I've adapted tonight for our purposes my prayers for our high school grads over the past months, with the hope that wisdom shines in all our decisions as well as theirs. May we approach our work with open hearts and thoughtful minds. May we listen not only to respond, but to truly understand each other. May we seek solutions that serve the community, balancing respect for the past with a clear-eyed vision for what lies ahead. May we have courage to make difficult choices when they are needed, always grounded in fairness, care, and hope. And as we deliberate tonight, may our decisions reflect the deep responsibility we hold to the community we are honored to serve. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that brings us to number 4, approval of tonight's agenda. Does anyone wish to add, delete, or make a motion to approve tonight's agenda? We have a motion from Commissioner Colo to approve the agenda. Second by Commissioner Herzog. All right, discussion? All right, with done, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, we have an agenda. So that brings us to item 5, which is public comment. A few ground rules before we start public comment for those of you who might be new here. The City Commission values and relies on the input of our fellow citizens to help make decisions. Now is the time set aside for the public to address the City Commission on any city-related item, whether or not it's on the agenda. I ask that comments be directed to the City Commission as a whole and not to individual commissioners. The city has made it easier for you to request follow-up on any issue. Simply scan the QR code you see displayed or sign in with staff at the lobby at the meeting tonight before speaking at public comment. Often a lot of questions are asked and we have no way to get back to you if we don't know who you are, what your number is, email. So we prefer to have a way to get back to you. If you wish to speak tonight at public comment, please wait until recognized by me, the mayor, and then come up to the podium. For the record, you'll state your name and your address. Please be mindful that the City Commission wants to hear from anyone who wishes to speak tonight, so comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, not per topic. And we have a timer at the podium to help you keep track of your allotted time. If you don't wish to speak tonight, no problem. Often folks decide to email us. The sooner you email us, the better we can process and understand what your request is or what your concerns are. It's very helpful. Please note, we typically don't respond directly to questions during public comment. You can imagine how that would go back and forth. Someone's waiting to speak next. The next thing you know, an hour's passed and people are walking out frustrated. They couldn't come to public comment. So what we do is we write down those questions, and when that topic is discussed, we ask those questions to city staff or whomever during that topic. If your question is unrelated to something on the agenda, our city manager is taking copious notes. And again, if you leave your follow-up information, we get back to you, or we look into matters as appropriate. Let's see. Any public comments the city commission or manager respond to post-meeting will utilize the contact information on the public comment sign-in, so please make sure to double-check your information for accuracy. And if you have any questions about that process, we have our lovely community engagement specialist that can help you out accordingly. So just ask for Judy Davids. She's great. She'll help you out. We're going to, before we have everyone raise their hand for public comment, we have a lot of people here tonight. We have folks here for different things. I understand that we have a robotics group here. Is that correct? So did you guys want to come to public comment? So because they have school tomorrow and they're very smart, they're on the robotics team and they're probably going to carry the horsepower for all of us in the future, we're going to ask that if they want to come up first, that they can come up first. Ms. Milligan? Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah Milligan, and I'm on the Royal Oak High School robotics team. And this is Phoebe Navin. I'm a senior, Phoebe's a sophomore. The high school robotics team is one part of a much larger program that spans the entire school district and all grades from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. We have over 250 students across the city, and we also extend outward to about 14 surrounding cities, reaching hundreds and hundreds more. If you have a child in the area, there is definitely a way for them to get involved, whether they're in Royal Oak or in the surrounding cities. We have a place for everyone. Our program is invaluable in so many different ways. Most outwardly presenting, you'll see that we develop technical skills in all of our program students, and also soft skills that are applicable to real-world projects and careers. But something that really sets us apart from many other programs is that we put a very strong focus on developing our students' leadership and inspiring them to become the best versions of themselves through finding their passions and really exploring that and learning throughout that journey. I've experienced this transformation firsthand, and so have many others in our program. On the individual scale, it's very clear how beneficial that is to our students. And then on the scale of the whole team, it has made us incredibly competitive, making us one of the most competitive teams in Michigan, with about exactly nine culture awards and 6 competitive robotics awards over the past 4 years.
For those of you who don't know, the City of Royal Oak has recently provided us a space to practice and work in. And so the first thing I would like to do is give a huge thank you to everyone at the city who made this possible. For context, our competition robot was much stronger this year, giving the ability that we had the full field. We were also able to share this space with many surrounding teams from different cities, and we've been able to use this space for meetings of our K-12 programs and support, as Sarah said, hundreds of students. With this, we're holding an open house at this new space, which is 205 West 2nd Street, which is across from the post office, and we would like to invite you all. Both the city and the community is also welcome to attend. At this open house, we'll have demonstrations from both our elementary schoolers, middle schoolers, and our high school robot that competed this past year, and we'll provide assortments of light snacks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. When is the open house? What day is it?
The open house, I'm so sorry. The open house is Friday, May 9th from 6 to 8.
Friday, May 9th, 6 to 8. Can't miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for everything you do. What a powerful message.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one. All right. Real quick, just a quick poll of everyone that made it out here tonight. How many are here to speak about Rochester Road resurfacing? Raise your hand. Okay, good. Good. That's on the agenda tonight. At least part of that discussion's on the agenda tonight. Before we start that, I just want to give a few highlights about what's going on, because I know when information gets out there on social media, sometimes things, folks want to come up and express opinions and ideas, and I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with the facts. It doesn't mean we all agree on the outcomes or the decisions or whatever, but I've had people come up here before that have reached out to me after saying, I wish I would have known that before I went up to public comment. So to the extent that I've been made aware of a few things out there, I just want to make sure everybody kind of understands what we're talking about tonight and the process. That way, the public comment can be the most fruitful as possible to help us get the best information out of those who want to speak tonight and make the best possible decisions. So, first of all, I think in general, this commission, everybody here, I think we agree that the resurfacing of Rochester Road is desperately needed. It's a bumpy road, so to speak. It needs to be refreshed. I don't think we all disagree with that. And I think we all generally, as Royal Oakers, agree that safety and travel efficiency are important, right? We want safe roads. We want roads that work properly, good infrastructure, and that they're good for vehicles and for pedestrians. I think we all agree with that. And I think we all agree that overbuilding roads can contribute to traffic, excess stormwater, and, so we want to make sure when we design a road, resurface it, that we're taking in all the interests and really trying to balance everything. So our city engineers go to work and they design roads based on a number of different factors, and you'll hear that tonight during the presentation. They look at traffic volumes, they look at a number of different things, and they make recommendations to this body here. Sometimes those recommendations go through the Citizens Traffic Committee. Sometimes they come directly here. It all depends on different rules and policies and laws. And in this particular case on Rochester Road, this is really the second phase. We did the first phase on the south, and now we're the planned phase on the north. And we have federal money that goes towards this, which requires us to make sure that we build the roads to certain standards, and that our right-of-ways have, if they're being used for private use and everything, that they're up to those standards. And I think that's just good practice as well. So we're aware, if you read the letter the city engineer put together, that there are a few businesses on Rochester Road that have the right to ask for a licensing agreement to use citizen land, okay? Or if they choose not to, there's a approach that the city engineer will take, which is, okay, well then, we'll just make it part of a beltway, a green space. So we have two options that are really in front of us tonight for all of the different businesses that are on Rochester Road, which is, do we enter into a license agreement, which is very routine. We do this all the time. There is public land that we enter into agreements with folks for private purposes. So it is public land, it's citizen land, and if it's going to be used for private use, exclusive sole private use, then there has to be a licensing agreement in place, because if someone slips and falls, the parking lot isn't kept up to standard, something happens, that liability has to go on the business or individual that's using that for exclusive use, right? I think as the citizens of Royal Oak, we wouldn't expect anything less. And then there's also all the other things that go with it to make sure that it's up to standard, it's maintained, it's ADA compliant, all of those things, because the city can't knowingly just hand over land that belongs to the citizens without making sure that certain things are met. So this happens all the time in the city. You may see in Delmere, we repaved up in that area a year ago. Maybe we just finished last summer. Yeah, and we worked very closely with the business owners up there. They called, reached out, and we came up with a design that I think worked for everybody up there. And so typically the way the process works is folks get a letter which I know letters were sent out, and there's a number on there, and those folks can call the number of the engineering department and let them know that they're interested in entering into a license agreement and start that process, so we're prepared here tonight. I'll just say tonight, we're going to get a lot more information, I hope, from the people in public comment. I hope from some of the businesses. I know as of the 3 that are potential for licensing agreements, I've only heard from 1. Is that the same for you guys? Yeah. Okay, so I've only heard from 1. That's the apartment community. They wrote a letter and said, hey, we would like to keep our spots in the front, and here are the reasons why, and we'll dive into that when the topic comes up. But as of tonight, we're going to learn a lot because only one business owner has actually reached out to this commission with their intent to want a license. So if there are more, hopefully the city engineer will let us know. Hopefully we'll hear at public comment. But it becomes challenging for us when we're getting all of our information from social media, public comment. I mean, these folks up here, we regularly go out and meet with small business owners. I feel like I meet with at least 5 a week. Go out, check out their operations, things of that nature. So public comment is great. We'll work through whatever information we get now. But just since we have a big audience here, it's always best to reach out to us. We have email addresses, over 60,000 people. We try to respond to almost every email. Sometimes things get hidden on us from time to time, but I think our hit rate's pretty good. So if you have questions, you have comments, you want to know about Rochester Road, you want to know about the master plan, you want to know about, the park isn't getting mowed on the corner of your street, reach out to us. We're all community volunteers. This isn't our full-time job. It doesn't put, all the food on our table. So reach out to us, let us know. We always want to be part of the solution and make sure that we all have the same facts so we can come to the right answers for all of the affected parties. So if you heard something and you want clarification, we'll write down those questions, and when we get to that, we can definitely answer that. But just understand this is a process. It's very routine. We do this all the time. We have licensing agreements in place, and any information that said that we have to undo something, we haven't made a decision yet. This body has not made a decision. So we make these decisions routinely, and there just has to be some guidelines that need to be followed when we enter into these license agreements, okay? So I don't want, our staff works really, really hard. I saw some disparaging comments about our city engineer and all that were sent to me. I think that's unfair. I just want to make sure that, people are working hard here. We're trying to get as much information as possible, and there's a process, okay? All right, who's first? Yes, sir, in the green shirt.
My name's Tony Snow, 517 West Sunnybrook Drive, Royal Oak, Michigan. I'm not an employee of Green Lantern, but I'd like to see them keep their spaces there. And like the convocation said, there are many groups and some facets and different areas that come to speak, but even an individual here that's not involved with Green Lantern, they represent hundreds of people that don't come to these meetings. Thank goodness for you, probably, time-wise. But I'd like to have them keep their spaces and keep their store there. Thank you,
Mr. Snow. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Trish Oliver. I've lived in Royal Oak since 1986. I would ask that you prioritize the business owners and call them up first after myself, such as John Spreitzer from the Green Lantern, Aaron Richmond from PKSA Dojo, Rebecca Otten from Bravo Intimates, and any other business owner who would like to come up first, because I do know that they've been in touch with the city since they received the letter April 14th. So if they can, come up after me and speak to you first, that would help their customers be aware that their support and their presence here tonight is appreciated. So thank you for considering my suggestion. A lot to talk about tonight. Want to mention that the Hubble, Roth, and Clark consulting engineers' peer review of the Sheets traffic study recommended denial of the Royal Oak Sheets proposed for the Coolidge and 14 Mile intersection, stating from a traffic standpoint only that HRC does not find the traffic impact study and site plan to be acceptable. In addition, it states that many items are missing from the original study, including incomplete trip generation, a missing midday peak, synchro signal timings that don't match existing time permits, as well as a site plan that follows the city ordinances, among other items. Sheets can resubmit the traffic impact study and the site plan with corrections, but will backroom dealing intensify at this time so that a questionable response will be approved at a future city commission meeting? Or could this signal the end of the Sheets initiative to come to Royal Oak? Please incorporate the feedback from the neighborhood, follow the footsteps of other Oakland County cities such as Madison Heights, Farmington, Livonia, Wixom, and others, and deny Sheets in Royal Oak. Second, this is to advise you once again that since the one-family, single-family residential land use category with its protections has still been eliminated from the master plan draft, instead substituting the term neighborhood residential, which is code for allowing a variety of new high-density rental units, including duplexes, apartment buildings, and accessory dwelling units that are currently not allowed in one-family zone, that therefore the master plan must be placed on the ballot as an advisory question due to the questionable public input process thus far, and in order to save single-family neighborhoods so that your votes would be guided by true public input. We heard everything that the consultants and you, the commissioner and mayor, have said, and the vast majority still agree, and we speak for them, that they need to put single-family homes back in the master plan, not just in the text, but back in the future land use categories and in the future land use map, and not just leave it to the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. All right. Who's, so I appreciate the applauding, but we do have sort of this rule here that we want to make sure everybody, if they have a dissenting opinion, feels welcome to come up. So we try to keep the meeting moving along, and please, applauding may restrict or may make people with a different opinion feel unwelcome to come up and speak. So I think we all agree we want to make sure that everyone feels free to speak their mind tonight. So let's make sure we manage that, okay? All right, who's next? I see in the white polo shirt here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Lawson. I'm a Royal Oak resident, and I live at 4410 Rochester, near the properties involved. I also work in strategy analysis, and I'm here today basically blending my passion and experiences for the city with my expertise. And I was kind of approaching all of the properties on a risk versus value analysis. And I'm really happy to hear that this is kind of up to the businesses to license, because I don't think it's fair that they would have to pay for the removal and be forced to do that. So I didn't actually think that the businesses just south of 14 Mile or the apartments provide any risk to removing the parking lot from a safety perspective. But when it comes to the residential parking pads, I would recommend that these are kept. I see that residents utilize these to turn around in their driveway, and so that they can pull out on Rochester Road going forward. If you look at all of the NHTSA studies that they've done, backing out onto a main road significantly increases the risk of accident. So if we're going to remove their ability to U-turn, we're putting all of our residents at more risk. And I don't think the value of removing those and adding green space there outweighs the risk of them having to back out onto a busy main road. And then finally, I want to discuss the business lot containing Green Lantern, the best barbers in town, and many others. On busy evenings, removing this lot will push 300 or so customers into the side streets, which poses a lot of concerns and safety risks. One, this is a very family-friendly neighborhood where people walk their dogs, kids ride their bikes, and forcing this much congestion onto the side streets is not safe for those families. Two, the experience of your citizens that live on these streets will decline significantly. Less parking, more congestion, and more noise at all hours of the night as customers pick up their pizzas as late as 12 a.m. on the weekends. If this were to pass, or they don't have that parking lot, The noise of the car doors being slammed, locks being beeped, will move from the main road of Rochester to right in front of family homes where families are trying to sleep. Now, the City Commission document that I read states that parking is not allowed adjacent to these businesses on Bowman Avenue, and that brings me to my final point. This is already not being enforced and is happening every day just from the overflow of this lot. So if that lot were to be removed completely, this would just get significantly worse, including I've recognized people pulling into the townhouses that are also adjacent, using their guest parking to park for overflow parking and pulling through that lot, which poses another risk. If you're analyzing all of these proposals, I think this one is the easiest decision to make, just because there's a laundry list of risk and negative impact that it would have on the residents in the street. Now, the commission report also states that there's enough space for angled parking stalls and grass, and I hope you make the right decision to keep this parking lot.
Thank you. Just another gentle reminder about the clapping, okay? All right. Them's the rules. You know, we want to enforce it. Also, being disorderly is also part of the rules, ma'am. So let's just make sure we keep it light and we respect the rules, okay? All right. Who's next? Yes, sir. In the black.
Hello, my name is John Spreitzer from 4326 Rochester Road, Green Lantern Pizza. I just come today, I know that you had stated that, license agreements are pretty regular things. And to be honest with you, if that was conveyed in the letter that was sent, we probably would have taken a different approach to, trying to get this resolved with you guys. But I got a letter here just stating that, hey, we're recommending green space. That's all we got. Not to we contacted Holly. She said to hang tight till this meeting. So I would have contacted you guys right away. But I didn't know how that worked. I don't do this on a regular basis, so I apologize for that. Rochester Road is in desperate need of pavement. We agree on that 100%, and we appreciate you guys getting that done. It's been a wreck for a bit. Curbs are all deteriorated and whatnot, so we appreciate you guys getting that done on that side. Like he said, when it comes to cars and traffic, it's a very busy establishment there. We've been there right around 20 years. And the parking lot on the front and the side, we don't own it. We only have the 4 parking spots in the front, 4 in the back. The landlord, Rafael, has been very, very kind to us and allowed us to use that parking lot over the years, but I would imagine if you take the front parking, he's not going to allow us, because of his tenants, to continue using the side lots and the back lots. We do have roughly 250 pickups, 250 carryouts a night. So that's 250 cars of people in and out, so that's 2 transactions, and then another 250 going out for deliveries, 2 transactions. That's 1,000 in and outs. And that would be completely pushed onto Bauman, which you can imagine is insane, to say the least. So we're hoping that we can enter a license agreement for that piece of property. We'd be more than happy to talk about any type of situation that's there, and we'd appreciate any of the help to keep that parking up front. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. So, is that a no? Is that just, remember, this isn't our meeting. This is the people of Royal Oaks meeting. So let's make sure we keep it orderly, okay? All right. Who's next? This gentleman here in the front, yes. Good recovery.
My name is Aaron Richmond. I am the owner of PKSA Karate Royal Oak, 4304 Rochester Road. I rise tonight to discuss the issue that John just spoke on about the removal of the paved area in the public right-of-way. I do respect and appreciate the need to resurface Rochester Road. There's not a business owner among us that would disagree to that point. What I would like to speak to you about is the nature of what we have around the residential area. As John spoke about our parking situation, in the evenings, we do get pretty full. To John's point, if we lose that front parking, it is going to push people down both Bowman, but as well as Whitcomb Avenue. Tailor that with the fact that my business model caters to ages 4 to 104. With out of 166 students, 65% are under the age of 12, and most of those are under the age of 6. So if council would just indulge me in your imagination, a mother of 3 young children walking down from Whitcomb Avenue on a January night to come down and have their son or daughter come and do karate. Now, I can't imagine a mother wanting to take her kid trudging through snow and in the cold and away from the lighted parking area to come to a karate school, okay? Now, I take that as my concern, that is my business model, but then I also think about, well, my customers are gonna park there. Well, what about, you know, Paul's customers that are gonna be parking at the gym, or John's customers, right? Ridge Cabinetry. We're all using each other's spots. We respect each other for that. But now we got the residents to think about. The residents are gonna have to take and absorb all of that chaos of all that parking and all those customers. They're gonna have additional children and parents walking up and down those streets. And they're gonna absorb the risk also of those patrons walking across their sidewalks in the wintertime. And I think that's an additional consideration for the residents. That said, I'll leave you with this. To John's point, there was a lot of information I think that was left out that could have helped us here tonight in understanding what the process was. When I first received the letter, my first reaction was like, you gotta be kidding me. We've got 2 weeks to try to understand what this issue is and respond. Now, I tried to reach out to Ms. Donahue. We played some phone tag. I wasn't able to speak with her directly. I did email each one of you over the weekend. I was able to receive your email addresses in time for that. But certainly the business owners are interested in working with the city to come up with a proposal that works for all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. All right, seems like we have a few folks that don't want to abide by the rules that govern us. If you look on the back of your agenda sheets, the rules are there. I have to enforce the rules, whether I like them or not. The rules are there. So I would just appreciate it. Again, it's good to support. I think the support is here. That's great. But we're just going to drag this on all night to 1 or 2 a.m. And I think there's some business owners here that want to get answers to their open questions, and other petitioners here that want to get answers. So let's make sure that we follow the rules as they are adopted and written on the back of our sheets. Okay, everybody understand? Okay, who's next? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Scott Rosenthal. I'm from the Royal Inn Bar and Grill. Again, I'm going to reiterate what a couple people already said, is that that letter was a little misleading. I felt like it was, it's either this, we don't have it, so it's going to be this. You know, it's going to be green space. We're more than welcome to enter into a licensing agreement and do that. The issues and concerns and reasons why I feel we should keep that as parking is because when they approved the apartment complex next door, they went from a 2.0 parking per apartment complex down to 1.6, I believe. That was an elimination of like 17 spots. I was concerned at that time that parking is going to be at a premium and parking is going to bounce back and forth between the two parking lots. Now you're removing parking from the street or from in front, and that's where a lot of our overflow goes when our parking lot gets full. Now, we've also put a bunch of money into that parking lot, in the front that is, which I noticed hasn't been done the rest of the way down Rochester, and that's for the parking curb that the other gentleman was talking about backing into Rochester Road. In order for me to remodel, I had to pay for that myself and do that. So it's already been invested in for a certain part for that, that improvement there. I don't have a problem with maintaining any other potholes or anything like that. Let's see. But I guess the rest would be in my application for a licensing agreement. So that's what I'm concerned about. Oh, if you do the parking and do the green space, then, you know, it is going to force more people to park on the streets on Genesee. and walk through the parking lots because they're gonna be full. And then it's a first come, first serve for the parking lots between the two. So one fills up, they're gonna fill the other one up, and vice versa. So, alrighty, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. All right, I see in a black shirt right here. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the commission. Rafael Mahmoud, representative of the property 4300 to 4320 adjoining the Green Lantern. I don't want to rehash everything that's been said previously. I do want to inform everyone on the commission that we are ready, willing, and would like to be engaged in a license agreement with the city. We do believe that there is a safe way to do it. I know safety has been a concern there. We did FOIA from 2020 until today. There's been only one reported fender bender in that parking lot. So we certainly believe that there is a way to do this safely, and we look forward to working with the city. Obviously, this is a neighborhood shopping center. It serves the community. It's part of the fabric of the community. Certainly, we want to see these businesses thrive and succeed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, yes, here in the front.
Nicole Bazinski, 4012 Coolidge Highway, Royal Oak. I'm here to talk about PKSA Karate. That's our karate dojang, my son's and mine. And I just wanted to tell you guys that the parking situation there is often very, very tight already, even with the front parking still there. So I don't think it's a good idea to take away the parking situation because we do need it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, here in the white sweater on the corner, yeah, on the end, sorry. Long day, corner end.
It's okay.
We got it.
Hi there, my name's Rebecca Otten, 4732 Rochester Road. I own Bravo Intimates. I've been in Royal Oak doing business for almost 24 years. And I just recently purchased that building and moved over to 14 Rochester Road. Happy to be there. I pretty much concur with what the other business owners have said, that Rochester Road desperately needs to be resurfaced. It really needs a facelift. So I think all of the business owners that I've spoken to feel the same way. And I spoke to Holly Donahue, and I said I would like to enter into a licensing agreement. I kind of understand why the city's doing this, but we're desperate for parking. I mean, if you take this parking away from these businesses, you're basically, going to reduce their revenue. And all of us are building back from COVID. It's not been easy. So it really is going to impact not just the residents, but the business owners. And I employ women. I have one woman who's 83 years old that works for me and lives in Royal Oak. And that paycheck is really important to her because Social Security is just not enough. So you're not just hurting the business owners, but you're hurting the employees as well. So I just would like you to think about the people that you're impacting if the parking is taken away.
Okay.
Thank
you, Ms. Ott. In the purple here on the end. Yes, ma'am.
I've got to take a little picture. Hi there. I'm Ann Steffi, 1129 Ottawa. I just want to remind you guys, a few years ago you made some decisions about parking in downtown Royal Oak, and you really screwed it up. You remember the back end stuff, and then everybody was getting tickets, including me, if you were there more than 10 minutes, and it was a big mess. But you fixed it. You fixed it, right? It's going to be fixed. So now my thought is, instead of breaking it and fixing it, just don't break it. Just leave the parking space there. This is, you want to be friendly to the old people in the city. We don't want to walk like, a couple of blocks and carry our pizza home. It's nice to walk. There's a sidewalk now. People can walk in front of there now. But those places this is the best pizza you can get. The barber shop's great. Everybody's friendly. Those businesses need those parking places. This is something used by all of the community. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, just spiff it up a bit. Would that work? So that's my thought.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I saw a hand back there in the corner. We'll move around the room a little bit.
Hello, how are you? My name is David Loria. My fiance and I live on Main Street in Royal Oak. We just bought a house there. We love Royal Oak. Additionally, I own Squeaky's Cleaning. We're across the street from Green Lantern in one of Rafael's buildings. This doesn't affect us. We're on the Clausen side of that street there. But I just want to say, I think the plan is well-intentioned. We love Royal Oak. We like the green space, we like the parks. I think overall, we really appreciate the work you guys do, and I think that the city's like one of the most beautiful in Michigan, right? But I think the perceived benefit of ruining the parking and stuff, of the green space, is not worth ruining the livelihoods of these business owners, and it would terrify me if I was in that spot. So I think as a community, we can't do that to our neighbors, and I hope you guys make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. In the purple hat there. Yep.
Hi, my name is Sal Bashi. I'm owner of Royal Clubs Barbershop. Just want to tell you, exactly whatever others said. Taking away the parking lots from us, and it's a big thing. We rely on a park lot. We're walk-in business. We have seniors that comes there. A lot of people. A lot of neighborhoods. We rely on that parking lot. To be honest, if you guys take it, pretty much you guys driving us out of business. So this is my concern. We rely on that business, and hope you guys want to consider it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pesci. Okay, up here in the front. Yeah.
Hi, Joe Karcher, Salon Nero, formerly the Pomponis. So most of our client base are senior citizens, right? So a lot of the same concerns about, the distance of walking and having to be further in proximity to the location is one concern. Volume of parking obviously has been covered many times over, but one other thing I want you to consider is the traffic in the parking lot behind, not the ones in front that we're talking about getting rid of, but behind. The entrances are very narrow. We talked about this, I know, before. If you have a Ford F-150 and another F-150 coming in and out, it's literally, somebody might need to put it in reverse, right? So it's a concern of traffic volume, not just the amount of spaces. And if we can defer some of that volume to the front of the buildings, there's a big benefit there. And we've been paying in our taxes each year for the parking lot in the back, right, to, maintain when they had the assessment a few years back. So like to see the parking remain. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, yes, in the middle. Yep, hand up. Yep, yep.
Hi, how is everyone?
Good.
Okay. I'm a resident of Madison Heights, but decisions by your city affect surrounding cities and beyond, i.e. road diets. These road diets create bottlenecks to traffic flow. When freeways are under major construction for many, many years, the construction for many years, the last thing we need are fewer lanes to travel on. As far as the Sheetz construction goes, it is the equivalent of trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It simply cannot work. Are you even listening to public opinion on the master plan from the very people who elected you? I have been to many of these meetings, and the majority of your residents in the public comment portion of the meeting obviously do not want this. The data that they have collected against the master plan is beyond credible and well researched, and some of their arguments were brilliant. If we are going to pass on a better future for our children, how can we do that when denying them the opportunity of affordable, single-family home ownership? The equity in property ownership as an investment for their future, and the pride of home ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got some folks over here and over here. I don't want to have to take a recess and make sure we become more accustomed to the rules. Again, as the mayor, as the chair, I got to follow the rules that we all agree on, and those are all on the back of the paper, so we have to enforce them. I can't, it'd be a dereliction of my duty, so I'm asking you to work with me and make our collective job easier and get this meeting moving along, so when we come up here to discuss, you know, folks aren't here till 1 a.m., okay? We all on the same page? All right. Sir.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I've been in Royal Oak since 1948. Love the city. I'm also an environmental specialist. I've been in the health and safety and environmental arena since 1977. Green spaces are great, but let's leave the parking alone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, in the back corner back here.
Hi there, my name is Carson McGuire. I'm the owner of Ridge Cabinetry. We are a tenant at 4320 Rochester Road. Want to just echo what a lot of other people have already articulated, I think very well, of the negative side effects of removing the parking and how that is going to really touch, you know, all the stakeholders involved. So far, we've heard from 14, 15 different people. It seems like along with all of the problem people that keep applauding, everyone is on the same page. We have stakeholders from the city, inside the city, outside the city, residents, other business owners that aren't even touching the parking lot and wouldn't be directly involved or impacted. Everyone seems to have the same sentiment that the common sense thing is to not get rid of parking spaces and seemingly negatively impact all stakeholders involved. Redo the road, yes. Clearly that's very needed, but also is what needed is to listen to the constituents, listen to all the stakeholders, residents, business people alike, keep some parking for us, let us continue to thrive in the city that we want to be in, that we choose to be in. Don't give people a reason to turn their back and walk away and not continue to support and, you know, live in a city that we want to and invest in the city that we want to. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else wish to speak tonight at public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm David Bazinski. I reside at 4012 Coolidge Highway. My wife and son, you've heard from her already, they're students at the PKSA Karate Student, and as you can see by the size of me, we often have Green Lantern pizza. That area is, it needs some work. The road and the surrounding parking lots are in some rough shape in some of the areas. I absolutely support the idea of resurfacing Rochester Road. But these are small, locally owned businesses. We're not talking about big national chains. These people are not millionaires and billionaires that own these little businesses. They're our neighbors and friends. And I think that taking away what seems like a small number of spaces in favor of what's being referred to as green space. When we're talking about green space, we think, oh, well, I like green space. Green space is great. I like a park. I like my lawn. This is 20 feet of grass that we're referring to as green space. So I think the idea that we would take the parking away from businesses that desperately need it in favor of something that doesn't really provide any benefit to anybody. I just really would like everyone to consider the idea that the costs definitely outweigh the benefits. We all have a little strip of grass in front of our homes between the sidewalk and the street that we hate because the grass won't grow there. And that's what we're essentially talking about adding instead of these parking lots that are essential to the operation of these businesses. So I would just like to echo everyone else's comments and say that I hope that we're able to enter into whatever licensing agreements are required and that these businesses can continue to operate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bazinski. All right, who's next? I saw a hand way back there. Yeah, back corner.
Hi, my name is Madeline Mossington. I reside at 4520 Rochester Road. That's the apartment buildings there. And I agree that Rochester Road needs resurfacing. It's been needing it for a while. This is definitely needed. However, the implementation of green space at that apartment complex would not be following the zoning ordinance. Zoning ordinance 770, section 107 requires 32 parking spots for the 16 apartments that are in that spot. However, without the front area, there would only be 27 parking spots. The letter I received from the city says that there's an existing parking lot with 32 spaces, but that is not the case. And also the front parking area is also where delivery trucks, mail trucks, and even city construction trucks park when they're doing work in that area. If that front space was taken away, they would be forced to park along the side or in the back, which would block in parked vehicles, which would be hugely inconvenient and a safety hazard. And the removal of that front parking space would make moving in and out of these apartments nearly impossible. There would be no space for trucks, trailers, or vans, or anything of that sort. So I know that there's been some discussion of the licensing agreement, and I would encourage you all to move forward with the licensing agreement with that apartment complex. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, sir. I didn't recognize you by your arm.
Hi, everyone. Jason Edberg. I'm at 120 North Blair. And I just want to say I am excited about the 11-mile project coming up. And I want to give some credit to the public outreach that's being done under the leadership of the engineering department. I think you've got some exemplary public servants working for you there. So I want to give them credit where credit's due. I do hope, similarly to the residents that you're hearing from on Rochester Road, my home abuts a commercial corridor along 11 Mile, and I do hope that you'll take some of the lessons or from some of the comment that you're hearing there and apply that to 11 Mile when it comes to deciding between parallel parking options or bike lanes when it comes to those future improvements once the lane restrictions come through. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edberg. All right, we'll go with Mr. Harrison next.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill Harrison, 84-year resident of Royal Oak. Got several items here. The Royal Oak Today magazine, it would have been nice if you would have mentioned the golf course in the list of 12 places to be. The golf course serves all ages of our residents and is a unique attribute that is not available in all cities. On the issue of texting between commissioners during the meeting has a high potential to violate the Open Meetings Act and should not be allowed. Also, discussion during a timeout regarding an issue to be voted upon is also a violation of the Open Meetings Act. I have attended meetings where a motion is made immediately upon returning from the commission, returning to the commission table following a timeout. The parking at a ratio of 1.2 to 1 for the apartment building on Rochester at Genesee is inadequate. Allowing the cut-through to the public parking lot behind the adjacent businesses will encourage apartment overflow parking behind the businesses. The lack of parking for the businesses on Rochester will be further threatened unless the city approves the licensing agreement to retain the parking in front of the businesses. The Hubble-Roth and Clark review of the Sheets traffic study clearly demonstrates that the proposed site is not suitable for the development. It's all about the traffic, not Sheets. The site should be developed for a far less intensive use, such as storage units that are to be built on the east side of the railroad tracks on 14 Mile. And finally, I go to the Hollywood Market frequently, and I noticed that the sidewalk was inadequately closed while a 3-story lift was used to install the brick facade on the apartment building being built across the street from Hollywood Market on Main Street. It was a dangerous situation. Thank you.
All right. I see a hand way in the back. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Kathy and John Nellis. We've been residents since 1991. I have a proposed letter for city to send all residents. Dear resident, the city of Royal Oak has recently completed and improved the new Master Plan 2050 that includes a revised future land use plan. Pursuant to the provisions of these documents and the next step to amend the zoning ordinance, your property has been rezoned from the current one-family residential zoning to neighborhood residential zoning. We have also eliminated multiple family zoning and blended this with single-family zoning into the newly formed neighborhood residential zoning. Neighborhood residential, the previous legal zoning protections of your property defined in one-family residential zoning have been eliminated, and the following added types of housing density will now be allowed in your community. Multifamily units, this will include both apartments and condominiums, townhomes, duplexes, accessory dwelling units. Neighborhood edge, should your previously zoned one-family residential property now be in one of the new neighborhood edge areas, additional allowable density changes will be promoted. For your reference, an example would be the 42-unit apartment project now under construction at 4704 Rochester Road. Unified Development Ordinance. Regarding our outdated project approval process that we have used, we have adopted a new Unified Developmental Ordinance. This now allows us to streamline and improve zoning approvals. It will promote housing diversity, duplexes, multifamily units, and ADUs. It will allow us to bypass the ZBA, PUDs, and other lengthy approval processes that included resident input and checks and balances. Should you have an issue with any of these zoning changes, please note that the city's upcoming election on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 will feature openings for the mayor's position and 3 commissioner seats. Thank you.
All right. Okay, still clapping. All right, respect the rules of the chamber. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Ben Pryor, 2432 Elk Ridge Circle. First, let me start by thanking you all for the service you're doing for your community and what is not always a thankful job. A couple points I've noticed in the agenda that several people have brought up already, so I'm just going to skip over those. But I would like to have it addressed later on, if you could, what studies were done to show how these proposals would affect the businesses. Because if you're putting these things forth for your community, for the businesses around them, especially fixtures in the community, there should be studies done that are reflecting on how they're going to be affected by this. They've been around for a long time. They deserve at least that courtesy, not just some nebulous statements on how these changes might benefit. One of the main ones too is there any evidence on the green space adding safety? Because I didn't see any evidence shown or studies shown about accidents. If you guys are going to be showing that, it should be shown for the entire street, not just for that section. It sounds like there's only been one accident in at least 15 years, and that was parking lot related above anything. Honestly, there's a one statement in there about making the parking lot safer for pedestrians, and it's about making them more visible in pedestrian conflicts. Honestly, if that's the idea, you shouldn't have any parking lots in Royal Oak, because I mean, how many accidents do you guys get on a weekly basis around the bars alone? So it doesn't seem like any real thought or concern was given by the engineers when they were planning this out on how these changes would affect the businesses. It didn't seem like there was any concern given about how they would affect the housing units that are there as well. Like the other young gentleman spoke about, backing out into a main road is far more dangerous than be able to turn your car around and go through that. So there's got to be some sort of leeway given about that. Many of these places have been around since 1960. So, I mean, by that standard, shouldn't many of them be grandfathered in with what they have and not to pay a licensing for that? something to consider. Really, those are the only points I have. I have about a minute left, and if it's not a sin, anybody with any pent-up applause, I would yield that to them.
All right, I think we might just get ready to take a 10-minute recess for the clapping coming right out of this area here. Think we should do that? All right. We're going to take a recess until we can get the clapping back in order. We're going to follow the rules. right, if everyone can grab a seat and wrap up your conversations, we're going to bring the meeting back to order. All right, everyone, we're gonna bring the meeting back to order, okay? All right. Appreciate everyone's understanding. We have to have an orderly meeting. This isn't my meeting. It's not the commissioners' meeting. It's a meeting of the people of Royal Oak, and this is how we do our business. And, you know, for those of you that are here tonight to express genuine concerns, the business owners that are waiting for decisions and also expressing genuine concerns, we're grateful for your patience. Sometimes we do have folks that, you know, struggle a little bit to manage outbursts. And so we try to give as much latitude as possible. And then sometimes we have to take a recess to get everything back in order because this is more like a courtroom and less like a football game. Okay? All right. We're going to take another recess. right, we're going to bring the meeting back to order. Okay, I think we can do this, right? Okay. Now, again, I just want to, make sure everybody understands the role of this body, the role of the chair. We have to enforce the rules, okay? We can't interrupt public meetings. We can't interrupt this body. We can't interrupt people that are at public comment speaking. We got to keep order. We got to be respectful of everybody here because, again, you may not like a decision we've made in the past or a decision we might make tonight, but this isn't our meeting. It's the people of Royal Oak. And so we have to be respectful of the rules, and everybody has to abide by them, okay? All right. I think we're going to do this. I think we're going to get through this. All right, who's next? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Molly Engel, and this is my daughter Marianne, and I have a son, and we support PKSA Karate, and we come from Clawson. And I would just love to reiterate what's already been said tonight, that the parking spaces are very important to us. I represent a family with younger kids that would be parking down the street, and then walking in order to support a karate studio that we love and that we choose to go into Royal Oak to support. And I would really feel disheartened if Royal Oak didn't hear me and hear the voice of mothers and children by providing and making sure that businesses like this have adequate parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Engel. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Does this just start automatically? Oh, that's cool. Hi, my name's Rebecca Mix. I live at 2616 North Main Street. I appreciate the chance to speak, although I am realizing Parks and Rec is a documentary. This is my first time at one of these things. It's been interesting. So, in addition, also, I'm here to speak in support of the parking. Please don't clap for me. My bedtime is 9:30. I'd like to go home. So, in addition to being a Royal Oak resident, I'm also a New York Times bestselling author of books for children about climate change and environmental causes, and I am a huge fan of green spaces. And one of the reasons my fiance and I bought a house here is because I actually brag to other people, my city does rain gardens, and my city has all these parks. But something that's really important is that the green spaces are done in a way that residents understand and they have good utility. So someone had mentioned that little strip where grass doesn't grow. That's actually called a health strip. So my worry is, that's the word. My worry is that if we remove this parking, people will be upset, and it's just going to be a space of lawn full of dandelions and weeds, and everyone in Royal Oak is going to go, oh, green spaces are bad. That's why we shouldn't have these. A few pots of wildflowers next to Green Lantern would actually have more environmental benefit than a space of lawn full of weeds. So I just want to say I really appreciate your guys' efforts. I support road diets. I love the parks. I love green spaces when they're done well. My concern is this is a case where it wouldn't be done well, and it actually would turn residents who usually like this stuff against it. So thank you for hearing me out, and good luck. Please don't clap.
And thank you for staying up for us tonight. All right. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Martin, resident 551 Redwood Drive in Troy, Michigan. My family is triply impacted with this proposal to change the parking opportunities. My wife is the receptionist at Salon Nero. We're residents of Green Lantern Pizza, patrons, and we're also now a family doing exercise with PKSA Karate. I have concerns given that we want to replace that parking. It's already hard enough to be parked, to have a 4- and 6-year-old walking through the parking lots. It's already difficult. Going behind the businesses with the salon and the bar, it's difficult with cars not having enough space to navigate that area. And if we take away what little parking up front there is, I fear it's going to be even harder. People are going to get less patient, and then, essentially, I worry that one of my kids are going to get hit by a vehicle. So please really consider the safety aspect from that point of view. And then again, pushing all the traffic into the neighborhoods is not going to be beneficial for anyone living in the neighborhoods or those that want to be patrons of these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. All right. Margaret? Yeah.
My name is Margaret Blount. I have lived in Royal Oak since 1966. I live at 906 North Alexander. I know we're not supposed to point out a member, but I did email all of the members of the commission regarding the Royal Oak Rochester Road situation, and I only received one response back. So obviously, I am here to discourage you from shutting down or taking away the parking spots that are on Rochester Road. The businesses that are on that section have been very supportive to the city of Royal Oak and have been great community supporters by donating to both the city and school events with monetary and promotional support for the community. These parking spots have been in place for almost 60 years. Just as we have all gotten wider and not been able to fit in spaces we could before, so have our cars. I am all for providing safer traffic in Royal Oak, but having Rochester Road go down to 3 lanes is not safe for the pedestrians. By taking down or diminishing the parking lot in the area in front of these buildings, you will have traffic backing up on Rochester Road for people picking up pizza or dropping off people at the businesses. The the turning lane in the middle of the road past these people, hopefully there will not be anyone trying to come north as well as going south. Few people are dropping off people in front of the Amber Apartments. However, it has been noted, they do have delivery trucks and other areas needed. It is also unfair to the people in the side streets to have their area full of parked cars. I know that one of the streets cannot be parked on, leaving people to cross Rochester Road to get to these businesses. Please consider these issues when making this decision. I do want to ask, and I guess my question has already been answered, as to whether there has been a traffic study done. I understand that there has been by one person and that the area is deemed safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baum. All right. In the far back, red shirt.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. A couple of items. You have a traffic study out now for 11 Mile. I advise everybody to take it, except there's a spectacular flaw in your study. You know the one option it doesn't give you? Leave it alone. If you want to do that, you have to go through all kinds of manual inputting, and you have to know that that's what you want to do. To not have that as an option, and I'm not talking about repaving or anything like that, I'm just talking about putting in lane reductions, all the rest of that. Because you are not asking leave it alone, you have no idea whether people like it or not, because you're not asking. That's a failed, really flawed policy. You need to do that one again. I'd also like to address with you your rules changes. You're getting rid of some rules that I voted on when I was a city commissioner. And that says the commission shall not engage in electronic communication with another city commission member or member of the public during a regular or special city commission meeting. Electronic communication is defined as email, text message, instant messenger, website or blog posting, or any other forms of communication transmitted or received through the use of an electronic device. Number one, it's an open meetings violation. You'll try to get around that because you'll try to make sure you only put 3 people on, because then you don't hit a quorum. One of you will screw up and you're going to hit a quorum, and then you're going to be an open violation, hands down, no question about it. But the second reason, the reason we voted against it, is because the people, the Royal Oak residents that you keep talking about, have the need and want to see what is going on at this table, and not having a bunch of quiet peddling in the background where you're advising this person to say this and look at this and, boy, that guy's an idiot, isn't he? You already have enough reasons. When we're sitting up here, you don't pay attention to us anyway. You're all looking down like this, doing this and that. The idea that you're going to sit there and start passing notes back and forth, nonsense, unprofessional.
Thank you, Mr. Halleck. All right, who's next? Yes, ma'am. Yep, first raise your hand.
Good evening, Cheryl Medea. I live at 4139 Samoset Road in the Upton neighborhood. And I want to talk about the Sheets development. I was shocked to find a flyer posted on my front door about the city's intent to grant permission to build a 24-hour Sheets complex in my neighborhood. Has the city really considered the impact on the Upton community of a 24/7 gas station, convenience store, and late-night outdoor cafe, drive-through restaurant, and car wash? Let's begin with the property values of the homes surrounding the Sheets development. What family wants to buy a home within 1,000 feet of a 24/7, brightly lit, constantly busy operation? Who is going to want to rent an apartment or buy a condo within 2,000 feet of it? What developer wants to invest in attractive residential housing in a location marred by round-the-clock source of noise, air and light pollution, as well as potential crime? Has the city considered the impact on the elementary school just 1 block away? Shouldn't homeowners be considered in this decision? Don't tax-paying voting residents deserve a positive return on their homes in a safe, walkable, quiet neighborhood? The Sheets 24-hour station will severely impact what residents of the Upton community have enjoyed for years. What will this neighborhood look like in 5 to 10 years when no one wants to buy its homes and condos, rent its apartments, or enroll their children in its school? One of the big draws to the Upton neighborhood is the Upton Elementary School. But what is it going to look like in 5 or 10 years when families don't want to invest in homes or enroll their children in a school only a block from a business that brings traffic into the neighborhood and is surrounded by homes and rentals that no one wants? If I put my home on the market today, it would be a tough sell. It's one house off the alley of Woodward on Samoset, and there is a ridiculous amount of traffic noise, not to mention the cars and commercial vehicles that congregate in the alley and in the business fronts only a few thousand feet from my home. I cannot keep my windows open during the spring, summer, I must be nervous, summer and fall due to the amount of traffic on Woodward, coupled with non-residents who park on my street and use neighboring streets to avoid traffic. With this new development, those same drivers will be cutting down Samoset and other side streets when leaving the Sheets complex to make their way to Woodward. Is it okay with you to subject the eastern portion of the Upton neighborhood to more traffic congestion at the 14 Mile and Coolidge intersection? The western portion is already overrun with cruisers. The number of cars that are currently cutting through the neighborhood to avoid the traffic is already too high. What will the traffic be like when the empty manufacturing site to the east of that parcel becomes occupied? $2.8 million will be taken from our taxes to compensate Sheets for the abatement of the property. If we can find the money to abate the property, could we develop the parcel into land, something more neighborhood friendly? I've lost my house to the traffic congestion from the cruisers on Woodward. I would hate to see my neighbors in the east lose theirs.
Thank you, Ms. Medea.
Thank you.
All right, who's next? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Tim Metcalf. I live at 535 East Windermere. I am a 38-year resident of Royal Oak, and I'm here to speak in favor of the Green Lantern keeping its parking in the public right-of-way. I'm a longtime patron of Green Lantern. I probably think I'm an expert in a lot of things that I'm not, but one thing I am an expert is takeout pizza, and they definitely have some of the best takeout pizza. And I'm one of the people that park in those spots that are talked about being taken away. And bottom line is everybody is for green space, but they really need this parking. You know, even with the parking they have, it can be very tight at times, and people shouldn't be forced onto the neighborhood streets. Just one other point I'd like to make is, you know, I'd like to compare this to the street parking that the city added to Wagner Park, which is on Rochester Road. And you said, well, why did the city add the parking to Wagner Park? And that did not previously exist. And it's because the park had very little parking, and it was a good idea. It really needed more parking. And so the city added a few spots to Wagner Park. And I feel like this green lantern situation is really no different, that, this is a small amount of parking, and they really need it. And I'm really hoping that you guys listen to the city residents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We haven't gone over here. Yes, sir.
Mark Nelson, 354 Detroit Avenue. Once again, I'm here to talk about road diets, which you want to expand to the mile roads now. I'm assuming you've driven down Rochester Road, where the diet was done a little over a year and a half ago. The road is already full of cracks, and some places holes are starting. But who couldn't see that coming? You take 4 lanes of traffic down to 2, so now those lanes have twice the traffic and will wear out twice as fast. Who is going to be responsible to fix them? I hope not the taxpayers of Royal Oak. A road should last longer than that. We are lucky you haven't done the mile road yet, because that would be a nightmare with 696 eastbound closed. But you have 4 more years to work on 696 schedule, to work on it and schedule road diets and screw the residents of Royal Oak. I can see the mile roads being traffic jams all the time, like they are now with 696 closed once the diets are done. That little bit of green space you get from the diet doesn't begin to make a difference from cars idling in traffic jams and waiting on side streets to get to the road. I have to wait sometimes for minutes to get across Rochester Road if it's during rush hour, and this is before we add all the cars from the apartment buildings going up on 14 in Rochester. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it seems like hours when you're just sitting there looking back and forth to see if you can actually get out on the road. And then when you do get on the road, I hope I don't get stuck behind a bus, a garbage truck, or a delivery truck. The mayor said at one meeting, it's just use the center lane to pass them, and if you're trying to get on the road, go in the center lane and then merge into traffic. Will the mayor pay for my ticket? If you get caught doing this, it's against traffic laws to do so. I know you want to make this a 15-minute city, and the road diets are a way to force people into it. But we aren't in a climate that's conducive to that, and I don't want to ride a bike or walk to the store in the snow, sleet, or rain. I'm not a postman. This is the only city that I know of that wants to add population and at the same time narrow streets to cause traffic congestion. On to another subject. What justification do you have to vote yourself a big pay raise? Shouldn't that be done by the voters or the taxpayers? It's always been a non-paying job, but was changed to a nominal wage. I'm sure on the next ballot there will be a millage because we have a shortage of something that has to be addressed, as we do every voting November. Maybe this wasn't the best time to bump your salary 1,000%. If any city needs a third-party audit, it's this one. Where is all the money going? We have hundreds of new apartments, condos, big businesses, McMansions that have to have raised the tax revenue significantly. But yet we still fall short in revenue. It doesn't pass the smell test. Something in the city is rotten. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Wagman.
Long walk. Okay, Janice Wagman. During the Rules Committee meeting, I was the only member of the public there, and the discussion of signs, a comment was made that you were surprised that people didn't just mail in their exhibits ahead of time. When I stated that my comments, as well as exhibits such as this, were brought to meetings to inform the public, I was, not just you, but the public, I was shocked by the assertion that public comment should not be for the benefit of the public, but only for you. So I did some research. In fact, our commission operates under both the Michigan Open Meetings Act and Robert's Rules of Order. While Robert's rules focus on maintaining meeting order by requiring that comments be addressed to you, the chair, the Open Meetings Act ensures that meetings are open to the public and that citizens are given an opportunity to speak. This plays a crucial role in informing the broader community about community concerns, diverse perspectives, and important issues, which aligns with the Open Meetings Act's goal of transparency. I hope this commission also shares those same transparency goals. Now about the sign is over 4 square feet, which is what you've got on the rules, proposed rules for tonight. And it's so everyone can see it, you and the people at home when it's broadcast in the goal of transparency. If this new rule states signs must not interfere with others, I object to the signage size limit of 4 square feet. This is obviously larger than that, so I would recommend changing that. The last rule I would like to see changed is the lead time for posting agenda and supporting documentation. If the commission is accorded the courtesy of getting documents days in advance according to your rules, the public should also be afforded that same courtesy and not be kept in the dark until as late as 4:30 on a Friday. And all documentation that you are provided as part of the upcoming agenda should also be provided to the public. There's been many meetings where I've come and you're talking about documents that I've never seen. So regarding funding the winter ice rink proposal, it was on the consent agenda. You agreed to it by passing the agenda. I urge the commission to direct the city manager and city attorney to amend the contract as well as the holidays contract and bring them back to the commission together for approval before authorizing any payments to Mr. Witz. And finally, regarding Rochester, if, per the city manager's statement, the goal of Road Diet is to support all forms of transportation while encouraging development, taking away the parking from existing businesses will do the opposite. They should be granted the license.
Thank you, Ms. Bagman. All right, Ms. Poprowski.
Nancy Poprowski. It saddens me that some city officials would even ask small business or well-established beloved businesses to give up essential parking. City states they want green space in front of these businesses. Will the proposed $14 billion sheets have major green space? City states pedestrians need to be more visible in front of businesses in the Rochester Road corridor. Will pedestrians be safe walking in front of sheets where people are driving in and out 24/7 at a very dangerous intersection? City states it wants no overhanging vehicles onto Rochester Road. Sheets claims they sell cheapest gas in town. That could mean traffic jams. What about the Citgo backups at 12 and Woodward and Starbucks? Will Sheets be safe with backups at already dangerous 14 and Coolidge? City states Rochester Road should be beautified with more green space. Are gas stations and car washes beautiful? City states more stormwater runoff at Green Lantern, etc. Will Sheets have little cement so water saturation will occur? City states this is part of a sustainability climate action plan. Then why do variances keep getting waived for Bigfoot housing taking up more green space? Will these businesses go out of business because they have little parking or can't meet the requirements? Will a 4-story building replace them? About rules of procedure on agenda. It states members of the public may not use abusive language, threats, bullying, personal attacks, or intimidation. I've seen these rules broken by city officials and their appointees and the public. Therefore, you must apply these rules to all city officials and appointees to make this a true democracy during all meetings. It also states it's not necessary nor advisable for every member of a group to address the city in those cases where a group is in attendance. It is suggested that only 1 or 2 persons speak. The city states they make decisions by all info rather than number of people. This is a serious form of silencing and censoring that the audience may not hear all people. Sometimes we have to listen to officials dwell and get scolded on the same thing. Can you pick one person at your closed session who will represent all of you? This would take up less time. Maybe if you act like we're supposed to act, there'll be less dissent. Thank you. And on May 13th, 2025, at the Madison Heights meeting about Sheets, the audience clapped almost every time a speaker went up, and the mayor never scolded them. And it was a great meeting. Thank you. Watch it online.
All right, who's next? You haven't spoke already, sir, have you? No, come on up. No? Sir? Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Horman. I live at 914 Genesee Avenue. I moved to Royal Oak in 1978. I'd like to read a bit of the cover story. Planning Commission approves Royal Oak Master Plan Draft 2050. This appeared in the Royal Oak Review of April 16th, 2025. I'm going to redact a couple things here because I don't want to name names. Redacted said with his understanding of ordinances and how development works, he doesn't see how the master plan draft would allow for developers to build apartment complexes within neighborhood communities. Quote, the fear is that developers could go and buy lots in, off Main Street or any neighborhood. Just buy 3 lots in any neighborhood and build a large multi-family apartment community, Redacted said. I can't see how this master plan would allow that, unquote. Redacted asked the city attorney if that's a possibility and how likely that would happen in Royal Oak. Quote, there are a number of different issues with that, and you would still have to go through a site plan approval, and in your scenario, you'd have 3 separate plots. So those would have to be consolidated, or you'd still have to comply with all of the setbacks. So theoretically, unless you went through all of those procedures, you'd have 3 different plots, but you'd only be able to put 1 house on each, unquote, said Redacted, Assistant City for Royal Oak. Well, I guess I suffer from the same lack of imagination that some other people do. A few years ago, I could not have foreseen that I'd be looking out my kitchen window on the construction of a 42-unit apartment building on the corner. A few years ago, I would not have even imagined that there would be a cannabis dispensary located across the road from Oakland Schools Technical Center Southeast. On and on and on. So here we are today with our current master plan and our city ordinances and the devils that we have come to know. Variances, rezoning, PUDs, and I guess I should also add traffic studies and licensing agreements. And then there's the devil we don't know, the master plan draft, and whatever the devils we do know will create in the coming years. So the devils we know, the devils we don't know, and all the devils in the details in between.
All right, who's next? Yes, sir.
Bob Stuglin, 4404 Rochester Road. I've lived in Royal Oak for approximately 62 years. First, I want to show you and remind you what the Royal Oak Today's paper says right at the top. Support our local businesses. It's always there every month. But I have a cynical view of this whole thing with the parking on Rochester Road. After 50 years, some of those buildings have been there over 50 years. The Green Lantern and the barber shop have been there over 20 years. All of a sudden, they got to get licenses to have the parking that they've always enjoyed. Now, isn't it a coincidence that in the master plan, on page 36, there's 13 businesses and a church, and you've commented on this a million times, Mr. Mayor, and right here in the next rendering, they're all gone. So did you not expect this crowd tonight? Did you think that you would be able to get away with forcing these businesses out? Because that's what it looks like to me. One more thing, one more hoop that they had to jump through. But everyone doesn't have a copy of this master plan. You guys said it'd be cost too much to put it out. But you gave yourself a $124,000 raise. That would have been enough funds to give everybody a master plan at their residence. So Like I said, this is a totally cynical view with me, but in my opinion, what you've already shown in this rendering for Rochester Road, and probably the attempts to get rid of these businesses and replacing them with 3 or 4-story apartment buildings, is my cynical view of what you want to do. I think it's the truth.
All right. Who's next? Mr. Witz.
Good evening, City Commission. Just wanted to give a couple recap details on the rink at Royal Oak. We haven't had a chance to get in front of everybody, and want to thank everyone for their support, especially some of the small businesses that stepped up to make sure that the taxpayers did not contribute anything more than 3% of the project. And it was an incredible step up, and I'm going to recognize one in a minute, but a couple wonderful details. 25,000 people used the rink at Royal Oak to skate this year. Half of them were Royal Oak residents or repeat Royal Oak residents. We had an additional 20,000 spectators, which were grandparents, parents, family members, parents of kids playing hockey, just creating magical moments in Centennial Commons. We had the news media here on 7 occasions doing multiple stories from our toy drive that collected 1,500 toys for cancer patients to the lighting of Centennial Commons to many other wonderful festivities. Thousands of people attended that lighting, thousands of people came to the rink, and thousands of people said what a great city this is, and are not here tonight to share that with you because they go about their lives and enjoy some of the great things that you guys deliver for the city. I am here to say thank you to one small business that's here who represents 13 businesses that stepped up so the taxpayers did not have to, and that is Michael Pessendorfer from N3 Investments. In addition to being the first to contribute several years ago when this project launched, he is also the first to step up again for next season. He is also someone that sponsored free skating days for schools that sometimes don't get recognized, where we had 2,700 students enjoy the rink because he paid half the fee so that they could skate there and enjoy themselves. So there's so many wonderful stories. My favorite moment are the 6 and 7-year-old boys and girls hockey tournaments that came in late January and early February, where hundreds of skaters and family members competed in their own Winter Classic moment. Those families were seen in businesses. Those families enjoyed themselves, and it was a great season, and we are ready to run it back for more community giving, more investment, more deals for residents, and more positive publicity for the downtown, drawing people in for the businesses, and activating a park that so many people put so much positive work into. My last thank you is to my son for his decorum. I have a son who sometimes isn't good sitting still in places, and who conducted himself without any applause. So I'm going to give him some silent applause. This is for you, Tucker. And appreciate it, and we look forward to coming back with another great rink season, and thank you for all that you guys do.
Thank you, Mr. Witz. All right, who's next tonight? Going once, going twice. All right, we're going to close public comment and bring the meeting back to this side of the table. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight and having a civil dialogue and public comment. For the most part, other than a few interruptions, I think everything was pretty civil, so we're grateful for that. I had a neighboring mayor give me some advice that said from time to time, if there are a few questions we can answer right after public comment, do it. So this will take probably less than a minute or so, but I'm going to take them up on that. As it relates to a third-party audit, we have one. In fact, we have an audit review committee. We publish a big report. They come here and present it to us. I highly encourage people to participate in that process because it's very, very interesting. You learn a lot about the financials of the city and the awards that our finance department is winning for doing a world-class way of managing our finances and reporting the transparency. There was a question about zoning changing in the master plan. The master plan doesn't change any zoning. There was like a letter written here that I just want to make sure everybody understands that the master plan is not a zoning ordinance. It does not change anybody zoning on their property that is something completely different. It's just a guiding document. If you have any questions about the master plan, planroyaloak.com, great resource to go to. If you don't have access to the internet or somebody you know wants something, again, talk to Judy David. She can work with you to get a copy if you aren't connected for some reason. There are questions about OMA, text messaging, and all of that stuff. Yeah, of course. Commissioners can't text message amongst each other. We can't talk whether it's in a bar or whether it's at a birthday party or in the back room during an unfortunate recess. We can't talk about the issues in front of us in that regard. So, yep, sometimes we look at our phones. I have a ailing father that's in the hospital in and out. Sometimes I need to check to see how he's doing if he's in the hospital. My wife had a stroke a little bit ago. And certainly during those times I was checking on her, and sometimes we have kids, make sure they got home from soccer practice or whatever. So yeah, occasionally we may look at a message, but that's not, don't conflate that and ask, hey, I saw you look at your message. Oh, do you want to see it? This is my wife telling me the kids made it home. And then question about public comment. Yeah, I mean, this is a law, rules-based society we live in, state statute, confirmed with our city attorney. Public comment is meant for the bodies, whether that's planning commission, zoning, or any body, including this one. We can't do policies that allow for public comment to be anything other than what it's supposed to be, which is advising this body. So if we were to change our policies to allow political advertising and all of that, that would put us in big trouble. But that said, people are welcome and have always been able to say whatever they want. You want to talk about pink elephants? Talk about pink elephants. You want to talk about your campaign? Talk about your campaign. But we as a commission can't enact policies that encourage anything other than what the intention is, or we find ourselves in trouble. And one clarification, you can say the names of commissioners. You could say, oh, I was talking to Commissioner Colo, or oh, Commissioner Douglas sent me an email. You can absolutely do that. It's just when you're addressing us, you can't say, like Commissioner Hunt and, engage in that sort of conversation, because sometimes that goes down a path where, it doesn't always work out well. And that's a rule that almost every commission across the country adopts. So, okay, hopefully we cleared up some of those questions, and that gets us back to the agenda, which is the consent agenda. And I do want to pull item M off the consent agenda, the proclamation designating May 2025 Mental Health Awareness Month in Royal Oak. Does anyone wish to pull anything else off the consent agenda? Okay. Does anyone wish to make a motion on the consent agenda with the exception of item M? The motion by Commissioner Douglas, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Herzog. All right, discussion on the consent agenda. All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. The reason why I wanted to pull M off is we as a community, and I'll say as a micro region here in Southeast Oakland County, have done a lot of work with Oakland County Health and have really rethought how we approach emergency situations. And I know our police chief not only has been a, I don't want to say advocate, I'll let him speak for himself, but came into this saying, well, let's see how it goes, how it works, and has certainly been a vocal voice on how to do this right and how to train other communities to do it right. We also have former Mayor Dennis Cowan here tonight that has dedicated a lot of his time through Oakland County Health Network to help strategically place these type of services within our communities. And so I think it's appropriate that we read this proclamation because people in our community are seeing the benefit. I love our police officers. They're some of the best around. We have world-class public safety in this community, but they're not always equipped to handle every type of situation. So having mental health professionals backing us up and following up and making sure people get the help that they get is critical to better outcomes in this community. Not only does it reduce, repeat issues, but it puts all of our residents better in a better, safer position. And so I'll read the proclamation, and if Chief Moore and Mr. Cowan are willing to say a few words, I think we'd be grateful because this is a big deal. So this is a proclamation designating May 2025 Mental Health Awareness Month in Royal Oak. Whereas mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being, it affects how we think, feel, and act. It also affects how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. And whereas mental health is important for our individual well-being and vitality, as well as that of our families, communities, and businesses. And whereas nearly 1 in 5 American adults will have a diagnosable mental health condition in any given year, and more than 42.5 million U.S. adults will live with an anxiety disorder, the most common mental health condition in America. And whereas May through May 31st, 2025 is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month, Mental Health America's 2025 theme is Turn Awareness into Action, which celebrates the progress we've made in recognizing the importance of mental health and provides challenges to turn understanding into meaningful step towards change. And whereas Oakland Community Health Network joins our national partners in promoting this year's Turn Awareness into Action campaign, and whereas mental health management ensures that individuals can focus on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society while promoting diversity, inclusion, and acceptance. And whereas improved systems of care for vulnerable populations, access to non-emergent and crisis services, advanced integrated physical and behavioral health care, along with provider relations, help to fortify services coordinated by OCHN. And whereas OCHN and its service provider agencies are committed to inspiring hope, empowering people, and strengthening communities. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Fournier, and the members of the Royal Oak City Commission, on behalf of the entire Royal Oak community, do hereby proclaim May 2025 Mental Health Awareness Month in Royal Oak, and calls upon our citizens, public and private institutions, faith-based organizations, and schools to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental illness and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illness to promote recovery and a higher quality of life. So it really is a pleasure to read this proclamation. I'll ask Chief Moore, maybe Mr. Cowan, you can come up here and say a few words on the work that you've been doing through Oakland County Health Network, and then I'll ask Chief Moore to follow up. I think it's important this message gets out.
Well, thank you very much. I'm here as the chairman of the board of the Oakland Community Health Network. We have a 12-member board appointed by the Board of Commissioners. We have 240 employees and thousands of workers in our provider network who are everybody from group home workers to activity center workers to transportation specialists to clinicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, and medical professionals. They provide services to over 30,000 residents in Oakland County and their families who are affected by not only mental health issues, but substance abuse issues, special needs issues. So we have a broad perspective of people we serve. And generally, they're people that in many aspects of our society have been forgotten, and we feel we are their voice. And I appreciate the voice you and the commission has given tonight to this mental health awareness proclamation. Just so people know, we have crisis services. And if you have someone in crisis in your family or a friend, you can go to our website, call the hotline number. That will go to Common Ground, most likely, who is our crisis service provider, and that's an organization well known to Royal Oak. They have facilities here. We also have non-crisis services. You can go to our website, you can set up a screening, see what you need to do in order to access services for someone in your family. You know, we all talk about we take a mental health day, and for a lot of people it's easy. They recognize when they're stressed, but for many people with severe anxiety or even clinical depression and things of that nature, they need some help, and we're here to provide that through the network. I do want to say, and that'll be my lead in to the chief to carry on, is that we have in the last 3 years put together a very specialized program, which was the first of its kind in Oakland County. And it's an initiative, crisis intervention teams. Our clinicians, medical professionals, work with police officers who are in about half the communities in Oakland County. I'm so proud to say that Chief Moore is one of the leaders in the county on this, in the Royal Oak Police Department. They have been great. And it results in having on site, when needed, a clinician to help in a situation where perhaps someone in a uniform can reach out and reach through and break through. More importantly, this allows us to get people not in the criminal justice system, but into the mental care health system. And that's a big difference. And that's good for all of us because it makes us safer and it puts our resources in the right buckets in the mental health arena. So we've been very proud of the relationship we've had with all the police departments and the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. We're hoping to expand that. But I do want to say your chief has been exemplary. He's worked with other police departments, and we're very grateful to have this partnership with the city and with the Royal Oak Police Department. So again, I thank you for your adoption of this proclamation tonight and for your support of OCHN. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cowan. Chief Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a lot of what's been said tonight is extremely important, and I think that a lot of folks don't have to think very long, very hard, and can think of a family member, a coworker, somebody that's suffering from mental health and maybe substance use disorder. And a lot of times they're occurring together, and it just complicates the matter. But if you really stop and think about it, when someone is in crisis, a lot of times the first call someone makes is to law enforcement. And for many, many years, we were the first to respond, and quite frankly, we didn't have the tools to solve every single issue that was facing us in that very moment. But like a lot of things in law enforcement, we rely on partnerships so heavily, and we've really leaned into our partnership with OCHN. And what that does is when we are called to a situation that maybe isn't a police matter, but in times of crisis, that's who people call, we're able to do that warm handoff and have somebody that's specially trained and open up that resource bucket to get somebody that desperately needs help, to get them the help they need, because they don't need law enforcement intervention at that time. Most times they just need the opportunity to be connected to resources. And the great thing about this program is I truly believe it is saving lives and it's making a huge difference. And it took a long time for police leaders to really understand and have that mind shift. But I think we're getting there. And I think that a lot of police leaders are understanding that we need this help. And so I'm very fortunate that the city has helped form this partnership. And it took a while for some of our police officers to understand that, but it didn't take very long. And now we're starting to see these results over and over again. So I'm extremely proud of the work that's being done, and I'm grateful for this partnership. So thank you for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Chief Moore. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being an example, and hopefully this starts to replicate itself. You know, God willing, funding comes through from all sources, throughout all of Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I think you guys said it amazingly well, and the quality of life and outcomes and lives saves are critical. We have to destigmatize mental health. Okay. All right. So I think on this one, that was just a reading of the proclamation. We don't actually have to receive, file, or accept it. Okay. So that brings us to item 7 on tonight's agenda, which is Rochester Road, parking in the public right-of-way. Ms. Donahue.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and good evening to you all. The Rochester Road construction project from 13 Mile to 14 Mile is scheduled for 2026 construction, and this will include a 4 to 3 lane conversion and also some water main improvements. So as we're in the middle of design right now, we look at the areas of the right-of-way and see if anything needs to be brought up to compliance. So we noted that there's several properties along the corridor that currently have parking in the right-of-way, and to our knowledge, without any license agreements documenting that. Staff is requesting that the commission give us a little direction on how to start proceeding with these areas. Using old aerial imagery, a lot of these, if not all of them, are decades old, many of them at least since the 1960s. So these aren't areas that were recently paved that somebody tried to slide in, like they've just been there a long time without really any attention or care to how they should be maintained. So as we do a road project, like I said, we want to bring these into good standing and safe standing. So there are 3 commercial or multi-family properties to talk about tonight, and then there's also 5 residential properties to talk about. They're all on the east side of the road. They're roughly in the northern half mile of that segment of Rochester Road. And as you know, when I come to you with license agreements, I'm usually against putting anything in our right-of-way. I like to keep it free and open for our utilities, for our use, but obviously there are different viewpoints and reasons for going against that type of recommendation. From my perspective as a city engineer, my lens is looking at traffic safety and looking at sustainability. That's what I'm charged to do. And so for us, it would be great to see these go to green space. It would be great to not have to have any sight distance issues in the right of way. Fully understanding that that is not the viewpoint of the businesses or property owners there that do rely on these areas. So what I'd like to do tonight is go over each location briefly, just give a brief summary of some of the concerns that we have as a staff, and then we'll get into the resolution. I promise I won't take too long here. So I'll start with the commercial properties. We have 3 of them, and I'll start with the northern one here up by 14 Mile Road. So this is an area that has angled parking in the right-of-way. It's in front of Bravo, Intimates, Custom Swimwear, Salon Nero, and Royal Inn Bar. I think we heard from all of them tonight. Currently, there are 6 angled spaces that are striped out there. Right now, those spaces are not really deep enough, according to current parking standards. And the drive aisle there is fairly narrow to allow for the angled parking in the right-of-way. We also have some traffic concerns with cars turning in and out of the driveway, especially the northern exit from this area, conflicting with the gas station, people coming in and out of that gas station. So there's a bit of a traffic conflict there. Something we can explore and look into trying to mitigate that as best we can. Another concern here is that cars, as they park along these parking blocks, the edge of those vehicles do extend over into the walkable area of the sidewalk. And so we want to make sure we reserve that 5-foot space for pedestrians and not have cars encroaching into that area. In this location, the curb line is not shifting for the lane conversion, and that's because right here is where we start transitioning back to a 2-lane road for northbound 14 Mile Road. So unlike some other properties, we're not gaining a whole lot of extra real estate to work with on this one. We do think we can fit some parking in the right-of-way. I don't know that we can get all 6 spaces there, but this is something that we can explore and certainly look into. I did want to note that these businesses do have rear door access for their patrons from the rear parking lot. Part of that's public alley, part of that's their private parking. It's kind of a mix back there. But certainly, it's obvious that a lot of people use these front door access points to attend the businesses. Oops. The next one is 4520 Rochester. This is Amber Apartments. Right now there's 10 angled spaces in the right-of-way. Currently, these stalls are too short and the drive aisle there is too narrow for angled parking, and this results into cars as they backing out over onto the public sidewalk to maneuver, which obviously is a huge safety concern from our viewpoint. The parking area here is also in really very poor condition and should either be replaced or removed. I do stand corrected. There are 26 parking spaces in the apartment's parking lot rather than the 32 that we thought we counted from the aerial image. So they have 16 apartment units. They should have 32 spaces. They only have 26 behind there. Not that it's the city's job to provide the parking for a private entity, but I can see where their concern is, that they have a need for spaces there. With the roadway curb being moved here, because of the lane conversion, that curb moves out into the road about 5 feet, so we have a little bit more room to work with. We may be able to fit angled spots here, but we'll probably be looking at paving like every portion of that right-of-way and having no green space. We also could look at doing some parallel parking options here. So I think we have options. It certainly will not give us 10 spots like they have right now, but there's something we could develop for this location. And then the last commercial property is 4300 to 4324 Rochester Road. So this is between Whitcomb and Bowman. And this includes several businesses here that we heard from tonight: Green Lantern Pizza, Ridge Cabinetry, Royal Clips Barbershop, PKSA Karate, and Classic Bodies Personal Training. Currently, we've seen drivers tend they'll pull in and out of the parking areas somewhat haphazardly, especially when they're exiting, because sometimes it's really hard to get to a driveway because of the way cars are parked. So people just drive over the curb and kind of exit all over the place, which is, again, that's a safety concern, but something that's fixable. There's about 21 spaces in this parking area here in the right-of-way, so this is the biggest of all the ones that we're looking at tonight. There is a parking lot between the 2 buildings, and there's about 20 spaces there. And then there's also parking behind the buildings, around 19 spaces, but those were a little bit difficult to count just due to striping. And while they do have rear doors to these businesses, it doesn't appear that any of them are being used for public access. So if anyone parked back there, they'd still have to walk all the way around to the front of the building to get in. Unlike the other two locations, we do have like a lot more space to work with here. So we could do angled parking here. I believe we can also get either grass, a strip of grass between the road and the parking, maybe even a bioswale if we can make enough room there. It would be small, but it's somewhere we could at least direct some of that stormwater from all this impervious area. We could direct it to a rain garden instead of right out to Rochester and right into our storm system. So I think we have maybe a few more options with this one that we can talk about with the property owner if that is the way you would like to move forward. And then finally,
Ms. Donahue,
yes.
quick question. Who owns the parking lot?
The parking lot behind?
No, the one between the two buildings.
That would be so Green Lantern owns kind of their building, and everything else there is owned by one other property owner, Mr. This guy that we talked to, Rafael. I know your first name.
So that one is the landlord for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other businesses?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and then last are the residential properties. I won't go into details of every single one here. These are a little bit different. In the past, on other major roads, the city has allowed pull-off parking pads. We see them on 13 Mile, we see them on Campbell Road. Our concern is that are these safe? Are they in the right place, and are they of the right material? So I think with the lane conversion taking place on Rochester Road, since you only have one lane of traffic in each direction, it will be simpler to back out of a driveway, but it's still a major road and still an inconvenience to those properties. Because we have a precedent of doing this elsewhere in the city, it seems reasonable to me to allow the parking pads. So we could give these property owners the option, we can remove it at no cost and just return the areas to grass. Or if they want to move forward with pull-off parking, we could install new concrete pads as part of that Rochester Road project, but that would be at the property owner's cost. So those pads, we would want to see 6-inch concrete. We'd want to see a buffer between the sidewalk and the pad so that people are not driving or parking over parts of our sidewalk. And just make sure that they're constructed with enough space from the roadway as well for sight distance. So I have pictures of all of them, but I'll kind of leave it there for now. That's a summary of all the locations that we're considering. The resolution as presented in the commission letter would direct the installation of green space, but does allow me the discretion to start developing parking designs and cost estimates for parking in the right-of-way if properties want to request it. So if properties did wish to pursue license agreements, we would, as a staff, move forward with designing some sort of layout that provides adequate parking stall widths and depths, adequate drive aisles, no overhanging vehicles or backing vehicles over the sidewalk, appropriate sight lines at intersections, concrete paved areas so that they last much longer. And the costs for this, for the construction, for the design, and for the inspection would be borne by the adjacent property owners. So if we want to move forward in that direction, we would get to work, and it would probably take us a few months to get all this worked out. Eventually, we would come back to you with license agreements for whoever wanted to pursue them for your approval or denial, but maybe approval. And then from there, it's a matter of how do we set up the billing for all these properties. So in the past, we've done that through a special assessment district and have given 15 years to pay that off. So it's your option if you want to do that again, but that is what we did on Delamere. So it would be continuing that same type of pattern. So I will leave it there and entertain any questions you might have.
Questions from Ms. Donahue? I see Commissioner Herzog.
Thank you, Ms. Donahue. I don't know if everyone knows this, but the portion of Rochester from Main to 13 is award-winning with the new design. So I'm hopeful that 13 to 14 will also be award-winning. My question is, can you explain a little bit more about what you want to do with the green space? Is this green stormwater infrastructure? Is it trees? Is it just grass? Can you elaborate a little bit on the green space?
Sure. So when we do any road project, we look for areas, what would be a great place for green infrastructure? Let's start there. So let's start where there's low points in the road that are collecting a lot of stormwater already, so we can push them into a rain garden. If it's at a high point of a road, you can put a rain garden in to feel good, but it's pointless. So you should just do grass or trees there. So our viewpoint would be to put in green infrastructure where we can, similar to what we did on the southern section of Rochester Road. And then if we returned any of these areas to grass, we would do grass and then plant trees if the opportunity is there. And I think there is. It's a pretty wide area between where the new curb's going to be and where the existing sidewalk is. So there's certainly opportunities to do trees. And I think even allowing some of these parking pads, we'll still have opportunities to do more trees along there. So.
And just to clarify that, I mean, the reason why we want to look for opportunities to do rain gardens and things like that is because as we start to have these, crazier rainstorms, which every person that deals with weather says, yep, as we heat up a little bit, we get bigger raindrops. We're avoiding at every opportunity putting additional stormwater into our sewer systems, which ultimately in high rainfall events end up in flooding people's basements.
Correct.
Commissioner Macy.
Yeah, thank you for this. So I just want to make sure that I was understanding what you were saying. It sounds like as you walked through the mall, you can see options to do some kind of compromise position that would allow for a license agreement with pretty much all of them. So the businesses and the housing, the residential. But the cost would, for all of those and all those instances, fall back on the adjacent homeowners or landowners.
Yes.
Okay. And it sounded also like even as you see how it would be laid out in almost every case, not the residential, but the commercial, it would be fewer parking spaces in order to follow all the kind of regulations that would be involved.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I'm glad that you made. And again, we haven't done a detailed design. We did some quick lines in a CAD drawing to just kind of guesstimate if something could work or if we were really in trouble and couldn't make something fit. So I think we are looking at fewer spaces, and I think by going through this process, we'll show these properties, here's what we could build, here's what it would cost. Is it worth it? Do you want to do that, or is it not worth it for those spaces? So I imagine we'll have a few iterations before we get the chance to bring it back to you, but our goal is to work with properties to maximize what we can, but still follow our own rules for traffic safety and improve sustainability as much as we can.
Okay, great. And that sort of leads to my next question, which is, were you saying that for one of these places there is still a possibility to put in some rain gardens, or were you saying, you did say that, right?
Well, what's kind of nice about all three commercial or multifamily properties, they all have catch basins right in front of them, so they all might be great opportunities for a rain garden, but if we do paving, probably not anything substantial. This one here in front of Green Lantern and Karate and all those businesses, this is the widest one that we have, and the curb is moving another 5 feet. So we think we're going to get around a 4-foot strip of something. That's not much to like depress the land and collect a whole lot of stormwater, but it's something. So again, I have to design it and look at it, but that's the one where I'm pretty sure we can fit it. The other ones I'm not totally sure yet.
So the other ones, your best guess looking at it right now is that if it maintains parking, that's what will be there, no green space.
Yes.
Okay, and then my last question is, on the residential that already is a concrete pad and is more recent, that would still have to be completely pulled out and redone, or?
No, and I actually spoke with that property owner this evening. So no, from my viewpoint, the only thing that's not working here is that it goes right up to the public sidewalk. So I think we could just remove a strip so that we have a buffer there. And we can do that as part of the Rochester project, because that's what we were planning to do to everybody. We'll get rid of it and turn it to grass at our cost, or you can pay to have a new pad installed. In this case, it meets all the other requirements. So we would just want to get a license agreement to formalize it, make sure they have the insurance, and then correct that little buffer issue.
Okay, that's what I wondered looking at it. But all the others, the other three, would have to be just totally redone.
Yeah, a couple are gravel, a couple are asphalt, and they kind of are all over the place.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Donahue, just another question. It was brought up, I made a note here. I don't know if it was a critique or if it was a question, but I figured I would ask. Did you do any studies before making a recommendation on the Rochester Road lane configuration?
Yes, we did a very, very detailed study where we look at traffic safety was a big component of it, and how will the lane conversion improve traffic safety. And I don't have the percentage decrease in front of me here, but it does reduce the accidents along the corridor, because you have people pulling into a left turn lane to make their turns instead of potentially being rear-ended by cars that aren't paying enough attention. So for the lane conversion, yes, we studied that very thoroughly. And we pulled the crash history for everything going on in the corridor. I did ask one of my engineers to look at crashes related specifically in front of Green Lantern, because that was one of the bigger traffic safety spots, just because we know how much traffic is going in and out of there, and they're coming and going every 5 minutes, right? It's a lot of come and go. I think that when we saw 7 accidents specifically related to that parking lot in 10 years. So that's not excessive, it's not a huge amount, but it does show a pattern that there is a conflict there that I certainly think we can improve.
Okay. And just in general, I mean, we're looking at all factors, including, hey, Rochester Road was designed in an era that probably was expecting a lot more cars, and now today's traffic volumes are lower, and you take those new numbers, those new anticipations, and configure it so we're not, because I know there's this idea that going from 4 to 3 lanes actually slows everything down, and that's not, I mean, it does slow people down because they don't drive as fast, and that's what we want. We want people to cross safely, kids going to the park and back and forth, and I mean, we've seen that win on Lincoln, Maine, and even where we're at with Rochester to date. I mean, I see kids crossing all the time, and using those pedestrian islands, which is a very safe way of crossing. But it's not like, hey, we're going to be stuck in traffic for 20 minutes because we went from 4 to 3 lanes. There's de minimis impact, if not maybe small during a 10-minute period. I mean, we looked at the data before, but I mean, that's a consideration is traffic volume and designing the road to predicted traffic volumes based on demand.
Yes, I believe the worst case, which is usually the PM peak hour, so rush hour at night, I think it was around a minute more that it would take you to drive all the way from the start to the end. So Main Street up to 14 Mile, that's how much extra time you're talking about. And I realize people speculate that that's just a study and I know what's really going to happen, but I think the proof is in the pudding. Like I drive Rochester every day on the part that has been converted to 3 lanes. And yeah, sometimes traffic backs up at the signals, but I get through in 1 cycle every time. So to me, it's working very well at the south end, and I fully expect it to continue when we do this project.
I drive Rochester and Maine way too much all the time, and at those hours, picking kids up from sports. It's amazing. Okay, sorry, other questions? Commissioner Hunt.
Thank you for all the time and research that you and your team put into this particular project. I just have a question procedurally. If we were to move forward with licensing agreements and you reaching back out to the property owners, would you be reaching back out? Are you sending letters? And I know that there would be some cost to the property owners if they were to move forward with the licensing agreements. Would there be some sort of estimate that they're given? Like how would they know what they're in for?
Right. So, yeah, that's our first step. So if I get the green light tonight, I will draft the letters tomorrow, and they'll go out this week to each property that we already notified about tonight's meeting, telling them what was decided and to reach out to us if they want to move forward. Knowing that some people may move forward, take a lot of staff time, and then ultimately not end up building this, we have a standard license agreement fee that we charge anyone that wants a license agreement to go through the process of developing designs, exhibits, license agreements, working with our city attorney and bringing it to the commission. It's a fair amount of staff time. So I will notify them of that as well, that there's a fee to pay to get this process started. There's an application form that I'll send them as well, so they can fill that out, describe what they want, and that will trigger us to start working on it. I think I've talked to almost every, or I don't know, at least half of these property owners already. So we're already kind of in dialogue, and that's been helpful as well. I have a lot of contacts that I can continue to speak with on this. Sure.
Mr. Colo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first, I want to thank you, Ms. Donahue. I know it's been a long night. You've put a lot of work into this, and your staff has too. Doing exactly what we asked you to do. When we first talked about this project, it seems like a lifetime ago, when we were designing it, talked about the plans around it, we talked about improving green infrastructure. That's been a stated goal of the city. We know that water is constantly getting into our basements when it rains a lot. We know that it is devastating to our community. We know that we're in a climate crisis, so we're trying to change our small corner of the universe the best that we can. So I do appreciate the direction that you took. But we know that it's also not mutually exclusive, right, to do climate action and to have good common sense design. And that's something that we can all work together. And I feel like when we talk and have this dialogue, that's something we get to. I mean, we've done this. A handful of years ago, we talked about Delamere. And when Delamere came up, it was a pretty simple conversation. Business owners contacted us. They got the exact same letter as before. Business owners contacted us. And we said, sure, yeah, we can do licensing agreements. We've had homeowners, you mentioned, on Campbell. I think just a couple months ago, we had a Campbell licensing agreement that we went into, because that makes a lot of sense. We don't want people, to go into their house scared to pull out. So this is all just common sense stuff, and it's what happens when we talk to each other and we don't talk through the media or talk on social media. Like, it's really easy just to pick up the phone and talk to each other. So I hope, like, moving forward, we can all have better dialogue like that. So I do have a couple questions here. When we're redesigning the roads, I mean, the road is being done. We decided that a long time ago. We received federal funds to do it. A lot's gone into this. I just want to make sure we have to change these parking lots, right? There's not an option just to leave them as is. The road in front of them is going away, right?
That's right. The curb is moving, so we have to do something at least at the edge of the road.
Yeah.
And if we're going to leave, I don't think leaving them as they are is an option.
Yeah.
They're in poor condition. They need to be redone.
So you can't tie into these non-conforming poor pads that exist right now.
I mean, I can build anything you want, but I would not recommend it.
Okay. And then we heard during public comment about the Rochester Road from 13 south. Have there been any issues? Is the road cracking that we don't have a contractor out there fixing, or the road's in good shape, right, after 1 year of use?
I have not seen any significant issues. We had one issue with the sewer that we fixed and put on the punch list, and the contractor corrected. We joint sealed it a year later to make sure we're not getting any water in the joints between the curb and the asphalt, and also between the mats that we paved, make sure that that is sealed as well. So as far as I know, no, there is no serious issues with the pavement. And if there are, like, let me know. I'll go look at it, but I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, but that's something we fix as a city. When we know of an issue, we correct it because we have that ability. We send the contractors back out, we hold them to it, and I'm sure they all have performance bonds that make them fix it, right?
Correct, yep.
Okay. I also want to, once again, touch on the parking pads. That's something we've done throughout the city, so it's fine to leave a parking pad for residents. You talked about it only takes 1 extra minute to get from Main Street to 14 Mile, which is astonishing that it's that much. I think it's a 17% reduction in crashes at any given time.
That sounds correct, but again, I don't have the numbers right in front of me.
I'm a nerd, I looked them up. That's what we said at the time. And then can you just talk just for a moment again about bioswales and why they're good for the, not only just the environment, but for the city? Why they're good from an engineering standpoint?
Sure. So bioswales or rain gardens are often interchangeably used terms. And their purpose is really to collect stormwater that's running off a road, a parking lot, any hard surfaces, roofs even, to collect that stormwater into a location. You can just think of it as a ditch sometimes, but they're a little more well designed than that. But the idea is that they allow us to infiltrate that stormwater into the ground, and it doesn't see our sewer system. So every drop that we can take out of our sewer system helps us prevent some overloading in the future, especially during significant rain events, which we all know are increasing. Thankfully, we have our catch basins that pond water as well, so I don't want to give the impression that we have a crisis here. We don't. But if we're good stewards of our city, we should be installing these when we can and where appropriate.
And that's also consistent with our climate action plan that we enacted a handful of years ago, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, hearing this and hearing the discussion, I think we're all kind of aligned here that we're fine going forward with some sort of license agreement that makes sense for the community. It makes sense for the city, it makes sense for the business owners, it makes sense for all of us, but we can still hit these green actions as needed. It sounds like, Ms. Donahue, your team can go in and look at it, see what works for the community, what works for them, and bring something back to us. So it sounds like the resolution in front of us makes a lot of sense. One thing we haven't talked about is the economic differences. There's the idea of a private good and a public benefit, and when there's a difference between the two of those, how can we fix that also? So now we have this economic benefit going to the private property owners of the public goods that won't have permeable surfaces, and that's something we can quantify. So maybe we look at that also and how we quantify that and the cost recovery that goes along with that in the future. There's a long time between now and whenever we get the license agreement back. So in the meantime, I'm going to move the resolutions as presented.
We have a motion by Commissioner Colo for the resolutions that are presented in the memorandum. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Douglas. just going to read them one more time. Okay, yep, that second sentence does it. Okay, discussion. Commissioner Quillo.
And to be clear, the resolutions as presented allow the city engineer to enter into discussions with all affected property owners into entering into a license agreement.
Okay. Any discussion? Commissioner Macy.
I guess I'm just making sure that the city engineer also understands that resolution to be the same way that Commissioner Cola was now presenting it?
Yes.
Okay. That certainly wasn't, I feel like, the general reading of that resolution by the public. So just making sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add that, you know, I think historically, at least the years that I've been up here, we've always had recommendations brought in front of us, and whether it's the planning director, the city engineer, police chief, they come to us with recommendations and options, and certainly from an engineering point of view, you know, there is always a pretty strict engineer guidelines that they have to follow. And in their wisdom, they ensure and bring things to our table to make sure that we look at those through a lens of balance in the community. And so the engineer can't be charged with economic balance. The engineer can't be charged with sometimes safety trade-off balance. The engineer can't be charged with economic balance. All of these balances, that's what we were elected to do at this body, is to say, okay, we have this perspective, and now we have to look at it through a broader lens within the community. And I think when I look at it here, I mean, clearly I think we all agree, you know, we have public land here, citizen land. It's been used for decades, but it's certainly in a lot of these situations not up to the standards, and certainly not an easy interchange with the plan changes, the good changes that we're doing with Rochester. So some sort of action needs to happen, and that action is do nothing and just plant some grass over it, or that action is to enter into a license agreement with the property owners to say, okay, you know, we think that if we can do this the right way, the safe way, it makes sense based on a number of different dynamics. All of them have a different situation. I think that the residential ones, we've had success on Campbell, we've had success in other parts of the community. I have no problem going with a standard agreement with those folks, and it seems that in most cases that's going to be satisfactory and better and safer for them and safer for pedestrians and drivers. So I think the case was made on the apartment building. You know, there's a situation there. This is when things weren't totally articulated or captured back pre-1986. You have situations where you don't want to, if the property owner there says, I need this many spots and these many parking spots are actually required by our ordinance, often that, is that an Amber property? Yeah, Amber has come here and actually asked for less sometimes. So, you know, they know their properties. And I don't think it's a flawed argument to say, hey, look, if you get rid of this, you know, we're going to be below our ordinance, and we actually need the parking as well for deliveries and things like that. So I think those are, you know, balanced arguments, right? And I think certainly for 14 in Rochester, there's already been some improvements made there. It's a little bit more challenging from a design point of view because you don't get that extra width that you do just south of there. But I'm confident that the people that own the businesses there certainly don't want to put their customers at risk, and they want to have sufficient parking for their needs. And if they're all zoned appropriately, right? I mean, if you say, hey, I'm a store that does this, and you're really, you know, something else, well, okay, those are always complications we have to work through, right? And then there's the large parcel where the pizza places and the barbershop and karate studio. I think there could be some interesting designs there that kind of meet everybody's interests. I think the challenge there is, again, and people want to know, well, you know, is the city going to pay for it? Well, we can't, as a body up here, take taxpayer dollars and pay for improvements that benefit a private entity. I mean, that's, you know, just a really challenging policy. But what we can do is say, we can help you with the design. We can help you probably do this for far less than you could do it on your own, make this safer for your customers, better ins and outs, and you know, do good by the public in a well thought out well-designed licensing agreement. And so, again, like I said, we've done this time in and time out. And so I'm willing to support this motion and allow our city engineer to go back, just like we found success in other areas, and come up with designs that at least try to take that balance that we've articulated and put it into a design. It would be absurd. And you hear it sometimes, you're just trying to kill small business. Really? I mean, come on. That's absurd to say that about this commission. I mean, certainly there are challenges in every decision that we have to make. There are safety concerns, there are equity concerns, there are fairness concerns, there are all these things that unfortunately we have a broader scope that we have to deal with. But I can't tell you a case where we haven't tried to work reasonably with every business to help them. And the proof is in the pudding in the past. I mean, Delamere just is a perfect example. So I'll be supporting this. We hope we can come to some designs that help everybody involved. But for me, we got to be safe, and we got to make sure that safety is on the forefront of everything that we do. Do we have to go in with a full slate of armor? No, but if we can make modest improvements to the situation that, you get to that curve of cost return on safety, that's where I'd like to see us on all of these license agreements. Okay. Anybody else have anything else to say? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, thank you, Ms. Donahue. Thank you for everyone that came out to speak on the topic here at public comment. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us to item 8, Michigan Liquor Control Commission, Blue Goat Royal Oak LLC, doing business as Blue Goat. Chief Moore.
Just give it 1 second so they clear out, Mr. Mayor.
If you approve the liquor license, I'll present on the social districts. Daniel's not here. Unless the chief wants to. But I'll do it. I have some questions for you. Yeah? Some good ones.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Commission. We received a request from Blue Goat Royal Oak LLC to review a new plan of operation to be located at 321 South Main Street, which was the former location of City Ramen. The license is being purchased from Red Smoke Royal Oak LLC, which is currently in escrow at 218 South Main Street, and they'll be doing business as Blue Goat. The applicants have been involved in the restaurant business for many years, and they own and operate Red Smoke Barbecue in Greektown, Detroit, as well as the Astoria pastry shops in both Royal Oak and the city of Detroit. If approved, Blue Goat will operate as an upscale Mediterranean restaurant and offer a full-service bar. The requested hours of operation are 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday, and their total proposed interior seating is for 50 patrons, which includes 10 seats at the bar. The applicants anticipate the food to alcohol ratio to be 80% food to 20% alcohol, and Blue Goat is not requesting an entertainment permit or a dance permit, and they don't intend on operating an outdoor service area at this time. The police department looked at this carefully and were not opposed to this request. I'm happy to take any questions from you this evening, and I'd also like to point out that one of the applicants, Mr. George Teftis, is here. If you'd like to hear more about his concept, I'm sure he'd be happy to entertain you also.
Any questions for the chief? Commissioner Douglas.
Yeah, just actually, no, it's probably a question for the applicant.
Okay. All right, no questions for the chief? Any questions, Commissioner Kola, for the chief?
Why are you so handsome?
Welcome. Thank you for sticking it out tonight.
Yeah, no worries. I was thinking about quitting smoking, so this just kind of
moved it
yeah,
forward.
now I'm going to do it for sure.
All right, so tell us about what you're doing.
We're going to do a small restaurant right on Main Street.
Okay.
I was actually in front of a different board last week applying for a facade improvement grant. So we plan on completely gutting the entire space of the old City Ramen. We're going to do a very small, classy restaurant. And we're going to clad the entire facade in tile. There's going to be a bunch of beautiful walnut and tile tones on the interior. We're definitely not wasting any money making sure that it's a beautiful place to eat. And as the chief said, we've been in the restaurant and hospitality industry for our whole lives. We have had the Astoria pastry shop across the street for 25 years. And when we saw City Ramen was going or wanted to leave Royal Oak, we immediately made an offer because they have a great building. So upscale, modern Greek restaurant, very simple menu. Yeah.
So you had success with Astoria. I know that firsthand from, unfortunately, over the years, eating way too much of your sweets, and my kids now too. But why Royal Oak? Why invest on, across the street in City Ramen?
We have a few properties in Royal Oak. We just lease the Astoria pastry shop, the building, but we own 218 South Main Street.
Okay.
And we wanted to get kind of our foot in the door. I represent the next generation of the family business. So I found that Royal Oak was a great place to do business. So far, everyone from the city to inspectors, everyone has been very helpful, very easy to work with. And we were in Greektown for a lot of years. And currently they are completely changing the street, the Monroe Street, from like a 2-lane kind of thrown together street to something that's really beautiful and makes sense. I can't answer any questions about the streetscape because I'm not part of that GNP anymore. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
That answers your question.
Questions? I know Commissioner Douglas had a question, and then we'll go to Commissioner Macy.
Yeah, so you're transferring a liquor license from something that doesn't exist at 218 South Main Street.
Correct.
What's the story behind that? And just looking at Google Maps, I see a for sale sign on that property. I'm just curious about, what maybe your plans are there.
Yeah, I don't own that property.
Oh.
My family does. They do plan on developing it. It's probably going to take a couple more years until they start, digging up soil. But there's a plan for a building there. I can't really tell you what that plan is because it's not my property.
Actually, I can tell you that the Planning Commission approved a 2-story building there a long time ago.
Yeah.
That never got built. So I would love to see something happen.
I think it's supposed to be Red Smoke.
Was that?
There were.
Yeah.
That's the name.
There were a lot of ideas for what we wanted to do over there. We wanted to do something that was like semi-commercial and residential.
Right.
The rough of just the building was going to cost $5 million. And we have a couple of other investments in Detroit as well. So it just didn't seem like the right time.
Understand.
So anyway, that's all. Just curious.
Sure.
Commissioner Macy?
Also just curious, what's Blue Goat? Like, why that name?
I don't know. Greeks are really bad at naming restaurants. I thought it sounded good. We had like 6 different names, and half of them were actually like in Greek, and no one really liked the authentic Greek names. We owned a LLC that was Blue Goat Tavern LLC. So, we kind of wanted to save money with our CPA and just
Right.
adopt that. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a cool name. I like it.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
That's the answer. And are you going to serve baklava?
As a matter of fact, we are going to serve Greek frozen yogurt. And then on top of the Greek frozen yogurt, we're going to have Astoria's baklava, in addition to loukoumades, which is another Greek dessert. It's like tiny little donut holes fried really hard, and then they're just soaked in honey and cinnamon. So we're going to have that on top of the Greek frozen yogurt.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Sign me up.
Commissioner Colo, and then Commissioner Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll start by saying I spend way too much money at Astoria. I think it's lovely in the downtown. It's fun. And that's what downtowns are, right? They're fun, and that's what brought you to Royal Oak. Like, they're vibrant, and they're going on, right?
Yeah,
So that's why you're here?
I love the, we call it the money block, is between 3rd and 4th there.
Yeah.
That's just, where everyone kind of like walks around, and I'd love to see some of those other empty spaces get occupied.
Yeah.
We looked at every single space there from Freshie to Vera Asian, and we finally settled on City Ramen just because we couldn't make anything work with the landlords.
Yeah.
Sorry, but yes, it is a fun area, and there's also so many things to do in Royal Oak where there isn't in Detroit.
Yeah.
You don't just have to like drink and eat. You can go to an escape room, or go to a show, or go to a comedy club. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff to do.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that well-rounded investment because there's a lot going on in the city. You talk about the money block. Unfortunately, we also have a debt block, though, and that's directly related to half of your ownership. And that gives me a little pause when, someone comes through. Part of what we do here is make sure that, the liquor licensees are good stewards of the community, that they're responsible in their ownership. And I'm worried about that we have a block that's been dead since 2018 when you all tore down that building and now have not continued to develop it. We did see there's a $3.5 million bid that y'all had at the time, and I get economics happen, so it's also disappointing to hear.
Are you referring to 218?
218, yes.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
It's disappointing to hear. It might even be multiple years before a potential shovel goes into the ground for something that's absolutely killing that block of downtown.
And I agree with you 100%. I would advise you to do some research on when my family originally came in front of this board to see what that discussion was about. I can't speak about it. I wasn't there.
Yeah, I talked to the planning department. I watched the meeting, so.
Okay, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw the agreements, the TIFs, you all were going to get some money from the city even. Like, there were good agreements in place to help it happen. So the fact that it sits empty just gives me a little pause. So you don't have to say anything else.
Yeah, I don't own it. All I own is the Blue Goat.
Half your ownership does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cheatham?
Well, I just wanted to say that, I appreciate your comments that Royal Oak is a good city to do business in. I think that's really something that we like to hear up here. I was going to be a little bit light and just say I don't know why we talk about restaurants after hour 4 of our meetings, because it's really hard to hear about your delicious food items this many hours after dinner. But I'm really excited to, at the possibility, the potential of, something like this in our city, and it looks like it's a very enticing menu.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I'll just add, restaurants, they come and go. That's part of the business. You guys have been here with Astoria for a while in Royal Oak. You got a strong family tradition of managing good places and, having the grit to work things out in tough times, good times, all times. So, coming in, it didn't work out for City Ramen. I thought it was a good concept. It's tough. The business is tough. It didn't work out with some of the landlords around the area, which is,
it's just business.
It's business. It's sometimes a challenge here, and we got to look to figure out how we can open up those doors a little bit more. But you found a way to buy a building, and
we're just leasing and just
leasing
very
the
clear,
building, but you're putting a ton of leasehold improvements into it. So you're spending a ton of money to bring it up to an awesome standard, and you'll do really well there on that block. And your menu itself is a selling point, but I think where you're at, it's just going to be a really good spot to bring excitement and quality of life and enjoyment to people's lives. That's why we all chose to live in Royal Oak, a lot of us, so we can, I get to walk to town. I live very close. It's amazing, and enjoy it. So I think it's a good concept. Police chief and the folks doing the homework on it don't have any objections from a safety point of view or anything like that. Qualified, experienced operator. I'll be supporting.
I wouldn't go that far.
An honest operator. We'll put it that way. There we go.
At least I'll take that.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add? Anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner Macy?
Move approval.
A motion by Commissioner Macy. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Herzog. Any discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, good luck. When's opening?
We're aiming for June.
Oh, all right. Well, good. We'll keep hitting refresh on the webpage.
Would you like me to stay up here? There's one more item.
Yeah, you could take a seat, and then if we call you back up
Okay.
for it,
Thank you.
just don't leave the building in case we need you on this next one.
You got it.
All right. The next one is social district approval for Blue Goat Royal Oak LLC. Mr. Grachowski.
Thank you. As you just approved the plan of operation for Blue Goat, they are also requesting your approval for to be included within the social district. They have signed the district operating agreement or standard agreement for all those that abut the district to participate in that social district. They have provided adequate liability insurance, copy of their beautiful Blue Goat logo for their cups, and we see no issue with regard to their inclusion for same, so there's a presented resolution for your consideration.
Questions for Mr. Grachowski? So this is, even though they're in the social district, kind of as we define it, they still have to apply. Everybody has to apply to make sure they're equipped and qualified and knowledgeable to be able to serve in the cups and
Correct, and they have to comply with all the social district regulations, and they have to receive local approval because they still have to get MLCC approval from the state to be included within our social district.
Okay.
So that's the last step for their inclusion and licensing by the MLCC for inclusion into the social district.
Additional questions? Commissioner Colo?
No, I don't have a question. This is a procedural vote. Once a liquor license has a license within the city, this is fair and allowed, so I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Colo. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Chisholm. Discussion. I'll just, ask I'm sorry. Commissioner Douglas, sorry.
Yeah, just if anything good came out of COVID-19, it was social districts, I think, and the fact that the state of Michigan established them tentatively and then moved forward to make them permanent. I think they've been treated with respect here in Royal Oak. It's nice to be able to get a cocktail and go over to Centennial Commons on a summer night, and so I'm happy to welcome another establishment to create competition and lower prices.
Yeah, and just with that said, we haven't had any issues that I can think of with the social district. I know we even extended it a little bit farther south and a little bit farther north. Am I correct on that, Chief Moore? There really hasn't been any significant problems attributed to it?
Yeah, you're correct. I think when this first came about, there was some hesitancy, and a lot of communities weren't sure what it was going to look like, but I believe this would be our 21st participating establishment, and we haven't had any issues with it.
Yeah, which begs the question, if we have other business corridors like 4th or 11, it might be really interesting to look to see if this can be a tool to help with economic development and things of that nature. So, I know that's not on the agenda tonight, but since we were talking about no problem, seems to be successful, a big win for businesses. Maybe if we want to help small business out, we kind of, at some point in time, take a look at 11, take a look at 4th, and other corridors that have liquor license service establishments on them and connect them to the loop. Just a thought. All right. Anybody else? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. That brings us to the last item on our agenda tonight, which is the update to City Commission meeting rules and procedure. Mr. Grachowski.
Thank you. Recently, staff have observed an increase in participation at our public meetings, a very positive sign of civic engagement, community interest in city affairs. Alongside this welcome engagement, we've also encountered situations that highlight the need for clear expectations around conducting acceptable communication during these meetings. The City Commission has always and consistently affirmed the importance of respectful and inclusive public participation. Of course, you've always relied on the thoughtful input of all the residents to help guide your decision-making and remain committed to fostering a welcoming environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing their perspectives regardless of their viewpoint. In support of that commitment, I called a meeting of your commission rules of procedure and had a meeting with them and came up with a proposed amendments to the rules of procedure, both for the city commission and the public, that do the following in general. Reinforce respectful behavior during meetings. I will cite a very recent federal court of appeals case, the second highest court in the nation, that says the right of free speech does not encompass the right to cause disruption to a public meeting. And that is the design of these proposed rules. They also clarify procedures for public comment, ensure that all the individuals, including first-time speakers or those who may feel intimidated or otherwise reluctant to speak, all have equal opportunity to be heard, and then establish content-neutral guidelines for the appropriate use of signs and displays in a manner that maintains decorum and safety for everyone. I believe these updates reflect our values, encouraging meaningful participation, protecting freedom of expression, and ensuring that our meetings remain safe, civil, and productive for all. I will highlight one thing based on a comment that was made this evening regarding the OMA Act, and that is not being removed. The City Commission members shall follow the OMA. This public body is well aware that you're prohibited from using, texting each other, emailing, instant messaging, using any form of communication during a public meeting, which would violate the Open Meeting Act. I believe that's been hammered into this public body for quite some time now, and you follow that to the T. I see nothing but copious note-taking up here. I wouldn't hesitate to call you out on an OMA if I believe there was a violation occurring. So that simply simplifies that particular rule by saying a city commission member shall at all times follow all the Open Meetings Act requirements, which prohibits all of that and a lot of other things. So actually we're broadening the prohibitions, taking it beyond email, text messages, but any other OMA violations, whether it's here at the dais or outside at a different event, which I've seen has been completely respected. So the intent of that particular change was to actually strengthen the requirement that any of our public bodies, including the commission, follow the OMA and all the prohibitions against violating that OMA. So I just wanted to clarify that because that was mentioned at the public meeting and I don't think it was accurately portrayed, but that does remain in there. And then I think the rest of the items speak for themselves. The majority of them center around proper use of signs. I will also mention that pursuant to valid case law recently within the last year, we have the ability to ban signs altogether. The Rules Committee suggested that would be going too far, and so we've come up with some rules to help make sure that those regulations are keep within the spirit of free speech, but also reasonably regulate so they don't interfere or cause a problem during a public meeting or appear to be government-sponsored speech, which we've seen with certain ways certain signs are displayed. So that was the intent, and the Rules Committee directed these changes. Certainly happy to amend anything that you as a body don't agree with or want to see changed, but that's kind of, after we had that meeting, that's what we came up with. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Grochowski? Commissioner Macy.
I don't know if this is for Mr. Grochowski or for the Rules Committee, but I just wondered about the sign size. When I saw it and I saw the 4 square feet, I was like, oh, we're gonna have to do math for this. I just wondered, where did 4 square feet come from? Like, is that a standard, is that from somewhere else or did we just make it up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Macy, that's actually, a lot of the sign language is adopted from the city of Farmington Hills. And that's what they came up with. We actually had a discussion as a group of what the size should be, different, and I don't think anyone has a tape measure that was going to come up with something. So I think we just defaulted to that because that's what Farmington Hills uses as their standard. I think that's probably the size of a lawn sign that we typically see, is my guess. We see on lawns, we've seen in these chambers at times. So that's where the 4 square feet came from because it's been successful in Farmington Hills.
I'll also add, we had a discussion about, signs need to be on, in possession of the person, right? So if you have signs that are too big, like this big, then now in a full crowd like we had tonight, these signs get up and they interfere with people sitting next to you, behind you. So, that 2 by 1 by 2, we felt it was, allowed for a person to at least have the ability to keep that on their person and not interfere with other people participating in the meeting. Commissioner Cheatham?
I mean, I guess I would just also add that we did a very quick and dirty search of like Office Max type stores to see what were dimensions of boards that people might buy to make signs and to see if they would fit within this 4x4. And there were certainly reasonable options with that, so.
And, I think the other thing too is like, look, we're not, what I appreciate about these rule changes too is we also said, hey, look, we need just to remind people that, why do we have rules of decorum and things like that? It's not just, this, we're trying to suppress free speech. That's absolutely not the case. It's quite the opposite. And explaining to people within the rules, why it's important that we have respect of other people participating in the meeting and, explaining that, there's a reason why these things are in place, not just for order, but also to encourage people to speak their mind if they want to. And so I think that was very helpful in there. And look, we're not trying to take away the signs. We're not trying to read the signs. But, we have had in the past meetings where people have complained to me about signage issues they couldn't see. They were being used as, tempers get, some people some of the time can't think beyond what their issue is and what they worry about, and they're kind of in that main character syndrome. I mean, I think we've all suffered it at least one time in our life, but sometimes people come to a meeting and they're in that zone, right? And so having these rules kind of, will help remind them that it's not their meeting, it's everybody's meeting. And, we can, at least from a signage point of view, avoid some of those complaints we get from time to time. And there were some signs, people were leaving them here and in the, blocking the windows, and sometimes it may look like the city's endorsing something if it's on a wall or whatever. We can't have the vestibule turn into a bazaar, right? And decide who gets to have a sign and not. So you just got to be on your person. You got to hold on to it. It's your property. Don't make it a hazard for anybody else, and don't interfere with anybody else's participation in the meeting. So I think it's a fair rule. I think people would be happy with it. Commissioner Colo.
Move approval.
A motion by Commissioner Colo. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Herzog. All right, discussion. Commissioner Hahn.
Just thank you to the Rules Committee for your time and trying to make sure that we have rules of decorum and rules to make sure that our meetings run a bit more smoothly. So thank you for everyone that's on that committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Hunt. Commissioner Colo.
I just want to say my 5-year-old daughter sat through the 2-hour meeting that we're there and followed every rule that's on this list already. So she knocked it out of the park.
I think Kennedy as well.
She did a great job.
I thought it was going to be a half-hour meeting.
All right, yeah, and thank you to my fellow Rules Committee members. It was very, very good discussion, well thought out, and we had a lot of what seems to be simple on the surface. Once you talk it out, you have an opportunity to put forward a good plan, and we'll see where it goes. Everything is tweakable, right? Everything's tweakable.
Thanks.
All right. And staff for preparing. I know Mr. Grachowski had a lot of work to do in a short period of time, but he did a great job.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. All right, that brings us to adjournment. Anyone wish to make a motion to adjourn? Oh, we have an enthusiastic adjournment motion by Commissioner Herzog coming out of left field. Is there a second to this motion? Second by Commissioner Douglas. All right. Any outstanding debate on this topic? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. We're adjourned.